All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour one of Jon and Jim. We'll be with you for the next 3 hours on this Friday afternoon. Really good show lined up today. First of all, we once again have a giveaway for Trainwreck Radio. Tickets to see Chicago and Earth, Wind, and Fire. We'll do that in the 4 o'clock hour. But Miles Heidi is a San Diego State freshman big. He's getting a lot of minutes right now. He's been in double-digit minutes, I think 4 of his last 5 games. He'll join us at 3:30. Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network, back on the show. We'll get you ready for a critical Week 18 playoff spots on the line. She'll join us at 4:30. And Kyle Glazer from Baseball America, who's been critical of the Padres offseason and the spot that they're in. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. I think he had coined the 2024 season as a developmental year for the Padres. Doing the show you mentioned I wasn't really listening, but I think I heard you say it. Unless you're saying it's Darren. So the reason I would start there is that the Giants are another example of what you're up against. Not that Robbie Ray's the end-all be-all right now. He's coming off Tommy John. He won't even be pitching until the second half of the year. But the Diamondbacks won the National League pennant last year. The Dodgers have invested like no team in the history of the sport. And at least the Giants are trying to spend. Look at Jung-Hoo Lee. Look at the trade for Robbie Ray. He's under contract for the next 3 seasons. You have to ask yourself this, and we could talk to Kyle Glazer about it. As we sit here today, and we're sitting here on January 5th, are the Padres the 4th best team in the NL West? I guess you could make a conversation between the Padres and the Giants, but I don't think you can have a conversation about the Padres and the Dodgers or the Diamondbacks at this point. So are they the 3rd best team or the 4th best team in the NL West on January 5th?
Well, you still have about a month-ish left before the start of spring training. So to say that they're the 4th best team right now is fair, but I think we could both agree that potentially things could change.
As high as the what? The 3rd best team? You're not going to put them ahead of the Diamondbacks, will you?
Why I say that is, what if the Giants don't go out and they don't get like Blake Snell or Cody Bellinger, or bring in a combination of one of those guys with a Chapman at third base, or make any other type of trades or moves? Like, what if they don't do that? Then we would still put them below the Giants, because I don't think I would.
I'd say they'd be similar. I mean, I think the Padres would be top heavy, and maybe the Giants would be more well-rounded. Like, I feel like...
Who's on the Giants? I can't name more than probably 5 Giants right now.
Well, I feel like the rotation: Logan Webb, Alex Cobb, Ross Stripling, Robbie Ray, second half is at least formidable.
Well, they finished ahead of the Giants last year.
True, but I mean, both teams are kind of disappointing and very similar, right? Giants fell off. Padres had a good September.
I would say that the Padres have a better roster than the Giants right now.
I would agree with that, but I guess my point is this, because we feel as if the Giants have more flexibility in payroll to potentially allocate than the Padres do.
We think that they're like on the verge of making another type of big splash move.
Here's my point. You're not making the postseason as the 4th best team in the NL West. Now, it's possible you could have 3 wildcard teams out of one division, but there's no way that the Padres are going to make the postseason as the 4th best team in the National League West. So they got to find a way. Here's my point. I'm not saying you have to find a way to be better than the Dodgers. I don't know if that's realistic, but you got to find a way at least to be as good as the Giants, if not better. That's the way I look at the start of the year. You have to find a way to vie with a team like the San Francisco Giants for a playoff spot. You can't finish behind San Francisco, and it feels like San Francisco's got more willingness right now to try to put themselves in a position where they can win right now. Maybe, maybe not. I think Robbie Ray's about more than just 2024, because he's not going to be healthy until the second half of the season. But again, the Bob Melvin move to me is a win-now move, and the way they're trying to spend at least leads me to believe they're trying to win sooner rather than later.
But it's about what moves they make. Jung-Hoo Lee, $100 million. How much is he going to help that team? I don't know. I think he's a good player. I don't know if he's worth $100 million. We'll find out. But I just look at that roster right now, John, honestly, and I know they made the move for Robbie Ray today. He's not coming back potentially until the end of the season, late August.
Like second half. When did he have Tommy John?
I think the end of last year, maybe.
I thought I saw around the All-Star break.
Oh, yeah,
the All-Star break.
So okay. Second half of this year is realistic.
Late second half,
maybe.
Now he does have an option, so I probably would pick that option up, because why go the open market when you're coming off of an injury like that?
Yeah, he's not gonna get near that money.
But I mean, other than that, I'm just thinking to myself, all right, if you were to name the 10 best players between the Giants and the Padres, how many Padres would you name?
But you're proving my point. Because a year ago, we could have played that game and they got beat by the other 16 guys on their roster.
Well, I know, but they still finished ahead of the Giants is my other point there.
Yeah, I get it, but neither of those teams were playoff caliber at the end of the season.
Yeah, so it's so then
But
third place, fourth place doesn't matter. Both teams are not playoff caliber teams.
That's the question, and that's where we'll start with Kyle Glazer at 5 p.m. Like, is this a playoff caliber team if they round out this roster, or are they playing for 2025? Without telling us that, but are the actions leading us to believe that this is more about 2025 than 2024?
And we're gonna have Kyle Glazer on today. Booked him a couple days ago, and listening to a podcast he had with Jeff Sanders, and we talked about it last night on the wrap-up show. There's been a lot of talk about, is this like a rebuilding type of year? Like, how would we describe what the 2024 season is going to be?
Yep.
And Kyle said it. It's like, maybe this season they view as just like a developmental year, because it feels like with the coaching staff that they've put in place, a lot of people from within the organization, they've even told us when Mike Schilt had a press conference to talk about the coaching staff, about how he wants the continuity between the young guys and the coaching staff and pretty much like a seamless transition. Maybe this year they view all the needs that we still say they have is that they already have those needs filled in the organization. Like, hey, left field, they need a left fielder. Well, maybe they view Graham Pauley or Jackson Merrill as that guy to be the left fielder this year or compete for a left fielder spot. You know, Marcy to be Jacob Marcy to be like a potential center fielder. Like, maybe they think that they have the pieces already in the organization and they're going to use this year to develop them for the future.
Well, okay, so then what they believe is that it's a developmental year, if that's the case, because they would be, that's a fool's gold proposition to try to compete with the likes of Arizona, LA, what else goes on around the National League, and to think that by fielding, three rookies in your starting lineup and to have a number 4, number 5 starter that also, is a rookie or out of your system. I mean, I think that's fool's gold potentially.
Yeah.
So Kyle Glazer again will join us coming up at 5 p.m. What do you got, Brian?
Now, I'm not fully sold on this, but I'm just going to throw it out there anyways. What are the odds that Arizona is the new Padres? And by that, I mean 2 years ago, the Padres, yes, they didn't go to the World Series, but they went to the NLCS and everyone was ready to just anoint them automatic second place the following year because of what they did the previous year. What are the odds that Arizona just doesn't live up to the expectations of the previous year and then they just have a down year?
Well, Arizona has already accomplished more than AJ Preller has in 10 plus years here, and that's make a World Series.
Well, I know, but they have to repeat it though.
Well, the Padres weren't, the Padres I know made the NLCS and they completely crashed and burned.
I guess I'm just not fully sold that they can do it on a consistent basis on like an every year thing.
Well, I guess, and that's fair, but I would say this, that who has more question marks heading into the season? It's probably the Padres compared to the Diamondbacks. Like, the Diamondbacks had a better year last year and returned more next year than the Padres have in 2024. Now, I agree, it's sports. Nobody knows. I mean, things can happen. It's just, I think, here's my guess, that both the analytical people and sites are going to project the Diamondbacks to be well clear of the Padres. And then also, like, prognosticators and pundits and people that cover the sport are going to pick Arizona ahead of San Diego. Now, to Brent's point, last year people picked the Padres over the Diamondbacks, and the Diamondbacks had a very nice year. They actually went through the Padres, I think, because they were left for dead in August, and they got hot.
And even like the year before that with the Giants, everyone was the Giants are back because they had that one good stretch.
They had the 107 wins and then step back. Yeah, I guess you never know. It's just, I guess I look at it like this. 2024, the Padres have more question marks than 2023, and they weren't good in 2023. Now, can it be fixed because they have a cohesive clubhouse and they have rounded out the edges a little bit? I guess it's a possibility. It's just, you have to ask yourself in your head, like, is this team as good as it was last year? And I think most people that aren't biased would tell you, no, they're not as good as they were last year. And they weren't good last year. And that's what people would tell you about this team right now. To your point, Jim, there's time. But the time's kind of running out, and it doesn't look like they're making deals like other teams are doing in baseball. They're going to the KBO to find, help in their bullpen.
I think things could obviously change. Like, Preller can make a move at any moment.
Yep.
Does it feel like that though? Like, from everything that's happened this offseason, which has been kind of like the offseason from hell.
Right.
Honestly, If we're really being honest here,
Mm-hmm.
with the money and the space that that is reported that they have left to spend, like I think people don't understand this as well. When it's being reported or said or viewed, like, okay, they have 20 to 25 quote unquote, $1 million to spend left.
Right.
They're not going out and spending like to that max, because that means that would be right up against the tax threshold. And then that would also mean at the trade deadline, if they were in contention and they were looking to add pieces and add potential payroll, then you're going to need to also shed payroll to add more payroll. Like, I don't think people understand that they're going to need at least some wiggle room and flexibility going into the season for potential moves that they might make at the trade deadline next year if they're in contention.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, I thought heading into the offseason that, yeah, they'll lower payroll, but even if they want to get under the CBT, they'll push their payroll all the way to that number. But now, based on the moves that they're making, trading Juan Soto, and then the acquisitions they're making, I mean, they're really being prudent with their spending. They've spent no money. I mean, they've given out a 5-year deal to a Japanese reliever where they spent a little bit, but the AAV, the average annual valuation, is relatively low. And then this move for the dude out of Korea, Go,
Usako,
is $2 million per year. You're not going to really find a cheaper major league caliber reliever than that. So they've been really prudent. And listen, use AJ Preller's words. Didn't he say in December, we're going to see if the market settles in January and if we can get some value in January? I don't think he was lying. He hasn't made any big strike. He's staying under that number. Clearly, that's what's been asked of him by Eric Itzender or Eric Rupner or others. And they have a little bit to spend, but to your point, they don't have a lot to spend. So without a lot of money to spend, they could always go trade route, or they could rely on players in their system to start 2024, which again, to me, leads me down a National League pennant.
Yeah, they've told us what they're doing without telling us what they're doing.
Exactly.
By their actions alone. The theme of this offseason for AJ Preller is the consequences of my own actions. That's what this offseason should be framed as for what AJ Preller has done. It's like, oh, they made this move. Oh, they did everything they possibly could get, as much out of Juan Soto trades they could get. You know why that they're doing these moves? It's because it's the consequences of AJ Preller's own actions in years past, putting themselves in this position right now. So, yeah, I guess we're just going to have to wait for the bargain end deals like they told us that they were going to wait for the market to go down. Maybe every team's doing that because nobody's making moves. Like, maybe every team is of the same mindset as AJ Preller, and it's a joke for the sport to wait for contracts to go down when maybe they won't go down at all. Like, do you think Blake Snell is going to all of a sudden like sign for $100 million?
No, and I agree with what you're saying, and I don't like it either from like the sports perspective. But at the end of the day, Blake Snell is going to end up somewhere, and it's not going to be San Diego. So not every team is playing this game. And Josh Hader is going to end up somewhere, and it's not going to be San Diego. Cody Bellinger is going to end up somewhere, it's not going to be San Diego. So just take the top tier players off the board automatically, and then say, can they still win without going after that caliber of player coming off the season they're coming off? And I think the answer is yes, if they get more out of their core. And that's really the only path is getting real production out of the guys you're really paying. Like, that's the only path. Manny Machado's got to hit. Fernando Tatis Jr.'s got to hit. Musgrove and Darvish got to stay healthy. I don't see how you do it without that occurring in 2024. I just don't.
I don't either. I've trust me, I've tried to think. That's the only scenarios if those guys perform. If those guys do not perform, they're SOL. They really are, because they don't have much behind them. And we're going to talk to Kyle today, and I agree with him. Like, the noted that bringing up guys. Why try it again? And I'm afraid that this upcoming season, you're going to see a lot of that.
Listen, I was all for them putting Tatis in the big league roster to start 2019, and he had a nice year. But Tatis is a different caliber of player potentially than what they currently have in their system. I think that's fair. I mean, Fernando Tatis Jr., when healthy, he's like a top 10 caliber position player, maybe in the game. So to quote unquote rush a 19-year-old that has like this ridiculous ceiling and is a generational player, I think it's very understandable. But to rush doesn't make a lot of sense. All right, we can go to the phones if you want to weigh in. 877-767-4760. Again, our number 877-767-4760. Kyle Glazer from Baseball America will join us at 5. Miles Heidi, Aztecs true freshman forward, will join the show coming up at 3:30. Aztecs have a huge game tomorrow against UNLV right here on San Diego Sports 760 at 1. But let's go to the phones and Don on line 5. You're on with Jon and Jim.
How are you guys doing this evening?
Good,
Great, man. How are you?
Okay. I got to tell you, I think the Padres are a little bit better than the Giants, but I think these contracts in the next few years with Machado and Darvish and a couple of these other guys, and Bogarts. I always liked Bogarts, but when he got that contract with that many years, I just think the Padres are going to have major problems here in the next 4 or 5 years, and I don't believe they're going to have a chance to even compete with the Dodgers. The Giants, I seen where they got Robbie Ray today. They're going to be weak. I just think it's going to be between the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks. And I don't know why. I know they didn't with the way the pitchers are today. It's amazing what these pitchers are getting, like Frankie Montas and some of these other guys, these contracts. But I don't know if the Padres are hampered by the way they talk, hampered by, I guess, these they spent too much money on these free agents last year and the year before. So I just think maybe they should have signed Lugo if they could afford it, because like Frankie Montas, what did he get, 18 or 19 million? And Giolito, he had a disastrous year last year, 18 million, but it just keeps like these pitchers, and it looks like the salaries of these pitchers keep going up. So
Don, appreciate the call. And again, if you want to weigh in, 877-767-4760. I mean, I agree with the sentiment that pitching is costly, but it's like that's the going rate. I mean, so if Giolito's getting 18 and if Robbie Ray is still owed $73 million over the next 3 years, I mean, okay. I mean, that's the cost of doing business. Other teams are doing business with those payrolls and salaries. You're not in that conversation because of how you allocated previous money.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
It's the consequences of his own actions. Plain and simple. And they probably, every team does, like they project what the market will be for certain players. Well, it's pretty easy to say whatever they projected for this market, they completely got wrong. Because Lugo's gone, Waka's gone, Snell will be gone, Hader will be gone. They're going to the KBO in Japan to sign pitchers there that are unknowns because they're not going to get a lot of money. They've stayed away so far from actual major league talent because of the market, what it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they at this moment in time, they've swung and missed on whatever they thought the market was going to be. And to Don's point, yeah, we all know these contracts in like 4 or 5 years are going to look like crap. We know that. We know that Manny Machado's contract's not going to age well. We know that Xander Bogaerts' contract's not going to age well. We know that if Fernando Tatis Jr. is here for the next 10 years, who says that by year 8, 9, 10, that contract won't look bad either? Like at that point in time. Just because guess what? Jon, when you get older, things happen.
Yeah, the Tatis one is way more justifiable, in my opinion, than the Bogaerts one because of age.
Because he could put up 5 like really good seasons, and then you're like, oh, this is great.
But no, it's 100% right. I mean, you've got this $200 million payroll or whatever you're going to have next year, and you've allocated like all of it to 4 or 5 players. It's as simple as that. You add up 4 or 5 of the contracts, and you're approaching $100-something million, and you need to round out the next 20 players with, $40 or $50 million, and the math just doesn't add up. All right, we can go back to the phones. 877-767-4760. Dave wants to weigh in. And Dave, welcome back to Jon and Jim.
Hey, Happy New Year, boys.
You as well.
Haven't had a chance to chat to you in a while. Hope all's well. And as I've been texting you guys about the financial issues, it goes, it's not just the Padres. It goes to all of the teams that are affected by the Bally's blow up. And the Rangers are a prime example of that. They have tremendous needs in pitching. and they're sitting on the sidelines. If you notice, there's a lot of teams sitting on the sidelines, and this is why free agency has moved to a snail's pace this year. So there are financial holes all over the place. That's the thing that has to be kept in mind here. There is a reset going on financially in baseball that's not being talked about. And if and when this TV deal ever gets squared away, which I don't think it will, not in the way that we are accustomed to, this is going to, I think, affect many teams in the major leagues, probably about 2/3 of them, from what I understand. And this is going to, I think, reshape spending, and it already has. If you took an objective look at what's going across the major leagues, it's not just the Padres, guys.
Yeah,
It's not
Dave,
just the
and appreciate the call. I mean, that's fair, but I would just say this, that it might impact TV dollars, might impact 2/3 of teams, but it's not going to impact the Dodgers. It's not going to impact the Yankees. It's not going to impact the Mets, the Phillies, the Braves. You get my point. I mean, these are teams you're still playing against. So, yeah, what can you really do? I mean, you can make excuses about the Padres situation with their TV contract, which they don't have, or you can get back up and try to win, right? I mean, it is what it is. Dodgers have $8 billion in TV money coming in the future. Padres have $0. You're in the same division. You're trying to win the same prize. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Make excuses about it?
Let's get to Paul before we hit the break here. Paul on
All right.
oh, he's gone.
All right.
I didn't see that.
Miles Heidi is going to join us on the other side. San Diego State true freshman forward, making the transition from high school to college and doing so here with the team that's 12-2 in San Diego State and hoping to get back to the NCAA tournament in 2024. So one of the great stories in the rotation as a true freshman forward, easier said than done in college basketball, Miles Heidi. He will join us on the other side. Kyle Glazer at 5 p.m. Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network, will join us at 4:30. Stay with us on Jon and Jim. All right, San Diego State has a huge game tomorrow at 1 p.m. against UNLV at Viejas. You can hear it right here on San Diego Sports 760. Miles Heidi, true freshman big in the Aztecs rotation. He'll join us next.
All right, this update is brought to you by Staples Stores. Baseball news of the day. The Giants made a trade. They traded Mitch Haniger and Anthony DeSclafani to the Mariners for former Cy Young Award pitcher Robbie Ray. Aztecs, they take on UNLV tomorrow at Viejas Arena. 1 p.m. tip-off. Pregame starts at noon. And because of a water pipe bursting at Pechanga Arena, all events, including the Gulls games, have been postponed. This update's been brought to you by Staples.
All right, Miles Heidi, Aztec freshman forward, expected to join us momentarily. San Diego State, UNLV. Jim just talked about it tomorrow at 1. Pregame coverage outside Viejas Arena at noon. We wait on an official status update on both Reese Waters and Miles Byrd. Now, Brian Dutcher did speak with the media this morning at Viejas Arena and said both will be game time decisions. Reese Waters was a participant, I believe, today in practice, and I don't believe Miles Byrd was. So maybe you've got one, if not both. But in terms of them being 100% against UNLV tomorrow, that doesn't appear to be likely for San Diego State.
You hope you get at least one of those guys out there.
Yeah.
I mean, Reese Waters has been fantastic for this team this year. He's just go-to guy on offense for sure. Miles Byrd has come along definitely of late. But to me, Reese Waters, you can't afford to have him miss significant time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. He's such a vital piece to this team. Being the starter, just the amount of times this year that they've needed a bucket and he's given it to them, and also just being a threat wherever he is on the floor. Like, he's not just a spot up corner shooter. He's not just a guy that can pull up mid range. He can do it all. He can shoot top of the key, 3-point range, corners. Like, he's a guy that from everywhere on the court is a threat offensively.
All right, so we'll know more come tomorrow. The availability of both Reese Waters and also Miles Byrd for San Diego State. Big one against UNLV tomorrow. We've mentioned that Miles Heidi joining us right now on San Diego Sports 760, home of the Aztecs. True freshman big for San Diego State. So, Miles, we appreciate you taking some time for us ahead of this UNLV game. We've seen the quotes over the years from Brian Dutcher talking about the adjustment from high school to college for a big. How has the process gone for you, being in this rotation, even making a start this year and making the conversion from high school to college?
Hey, appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely.
It's been good. It's been a slow process, but especially getting here at the start of July and just trying to get my feet in the water and kind of testing things out has been great. The coaches have always supported me, but mainly the opportunity to get on the court and get that feel for the game has helped a lot for me. I feel like I'm getting more comfortable more and more. So, and Brian Dutch has been great. Coach Dutch has been along on my side. The assistants, Coach Acker and Coach Glass, have been really supportive. So.
Miles, for you, what drew you to San Diego State the most? Was it Dutch, or was there other factors that made you pick to come here to San Diego State?
I'd say it was mostly the coaches. When I came on my visit, they just seemed like really genuine people, and they wanted the best for you. It didn't seem like they were trying to put on a business scheme. So that was the main attraction for me to come here.
Miles Heidi with us right now, San Diego State freshman forward. So you mentioned, your relationship a bit there with Brian Dutcher. I know in reading a little bit about your recruitment, like what Mark Ziegler wrote earlier in the season, he said it's a bit of a rarity for a head coach to take on like a lead recruiting assignment for a player like Brian Dutcher did in the recruitment of you from the Pacific Northwest. So can you describe a little bit about that recruiting process and also what your relationship has been like with Dutch and the staff over the last, handful of months or more?
It's been good. I learned that they're really heavily involved after my Section 7, almost July ago. And, he's been really consistent with his recruiting. So when I found out he was the head of it, I was like, well, he's really serious about making him here. He's always been pretty close to me. So just the fact that he was the head of the team, I was like, well, these guys really, really want me. So it's good to know.
What's it like going up against Jaden Ledee every day in practice? And when you first got here, hey, your first assignment probably maybe guarding Jaden Ledee. Well, what's it been like taking on him at practice?
It's been good. I think of him as an older brother. He's been able to teach me a lot, and especially when I go after him every day at practice. It's really helped me grow. Especially with how physical he is. I got to be able to stand people up against some games like that and use my physicality like he does against me. So it's been great. I love him as my teammate. He's a great guy.
Miles Heidi is with us right now, San Diego State freshman forward. So talking about your true freshman year, you're joining a team that's in the national championship game. Right now he's 12-2. They've got this veteran experienced center in Jaden Ledee, who's in his 5th season. Where do you feel as if you've made the biggest growth in your game? Not necessarily since getting here, but maybe since the start of the season.
Well, I think defensively, I've been able to kind of get back into the spots, especially going from high school to college, that they're very high on defense rebounding. And when I first got here, I wasn't as connected as the world to defense, but being able to play as much as I have, I've gotten more rhythm and just being able to fly around more, being more physical. So I'd say defense is probably the best thing that I've improved on so far. There's obviously more for improvement.
Miles, have you had a moment yet this year, and maybe it's not come yet, but have you had a moment where it's like, oh, I'm in college, this game is definitely different from what I was doing last year in high school? Have you had a moment yet that stood out to you? Maybe it was in practice, maybe it was in a game that really kind of was like, whoa, I'm in college now. I'm playing against, definitely better competition.
Yeah, I definitely had multiple of those. I'd say the first one though was against Jaden. We had when I first the first day I got here was back in July. We did an open gym and I got dunked on by it. And I'm like, well, I'm here now. There's no going back. So that was definitely, but there's obviously more. But that was my first welcome to college.
Miles, it feels like in college athletics in general, everyone wants everything immediately. Yet I know that in your upbringing, with your parents both being basketball players and with just the development of players that aren't necessarily guards but forwards and how much time that takes, there's got to be a level of patience. Is that something, it seems like you kind of appreciate the value of patience, where when you look around college athletics, it feels like everyone wants to play 40 minutes immediately.
Yeah, I mean, my parents have both taught me that patience is key. Wasn't always the best when I was growing up. So being able to go through that process, later in high school, going through high school with my high school coaches and my trainers, and being able to continually get better day by day instead of just immediately 1 hour or one day at a time. But patience is probably just the best thing to have as a forward, because as most people know, centers don't develop as quick as guards. So I think I've taken that into consideration with like working out, going to practice, that it's just going to take a little bit more time. But I think it's okay with that. And I think the coaches have noticed that a little bit too, but it's always that drive that wants me to get better.
Miles, tomorrow afternoon, 1 o'clock tip-off, UNLV. You guys started out conference play really well the other night versus Fresno State. But what do you got to do against UNLV tomorrow to make sure you start 2-0?
I think we got to stick to our game plan. We're working on that with the coaches and in practice. But just got to be connected as a team and stick to the game plan.
What's it like playing at Viejas Arena in front of these sellout crowds game in and game out?
It's awesome. I've never really had an experience like that before. I feel like I never had an arena filled with 11, 12,000 people.
Yep.
A lot of people. But I think our fans are great. The environment is amazing. We're always loud in there whenever there's a big play. So it's great. I love playing in there.
And then final one for you from me, just as you were watching San Diego State's run play out as an Aztec commit, leaving high school, getting ready for college, you're watching San Diego State, they win a tournament game, and then it's 2, then they beat Alabama, then they beat Creighton, then they beat FAU. What was it like knowing you're heading there, and here's this program that you're going to be playing for in just a few months, and all of a sudden they're playing in the national championship game?
It was crazy. I mean, I watched almost every game last season, but I kind of got to be a fan because I was able to watch them. But like, I was also knowing in the back of my head, like when they're on that run, like we got to get back to this next year. We have to get to that same. We have to have that same goal and that same like opportunity in mind for next year. But I enjoyed every bit of it. I got to watch as a fan. That was probably my favorite part.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was, you probably experienced it a lot like a lot of San Diegans experienced it, which was just, being along for an incredible ride. Well, Miles, congratulations on all your successes. Your game against Fresno State, the season high 5 points for the Aztecs in that win. And we'll see you tomorrow afternoon at Viejas. Thanks for doing it.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on.
All right, great stuff. Miles Heidi, part of the rotation, playing behind Jaden Ledee. Like, can you imagine getting to college to your point and be like, oh, he's in college. Jaden Ledee,
like that guy,
this like mythical figure, is also in college. He's on my team.
I mean, he's not only jacked, but he's really, really freaking good.
Right.
I'm just imagining what was going through his mind the first practice, and Jaden Ledee just dunks on his head. Like, oh crap.
I feel like most people have had that like overwhelming experience. Like maybe you go from like elementary school to like all of a sudden you're in like this middle school and you're like, what is this? And you're like, how do I adapt to this? Or it's your first day on a job and you're like, I have to do this for a living. Like this is not what I previously had to do. Like this is going to be hard.
Yeah.
But then you adapt. Typically, most people, it's kind of an adapt or die thing.
It really is. That's what life is. You either adapt or you don't physically die, but
no,
you just
not typically, hopefully not.
You just move on type of thing.
Exactly.
But I think Miles Heidi, for the time that he has been playing with this team in the role that he is in, I can't remember a time this year where I was like, he needs to, like, there's a problem there. Like he has definitely, in the spurts that he has been on the floor to give Jaden Ledee a rest, he's definitely held his own.
There's no question about it. All right. On the other side, an interesting question posed by some of the players on the Warriors related to Steve Kerr and his current ability as head coach of the Golden State Warriors. So we'll get into that on the other side. Plus, Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network, will join us at 4:30 ahead of this critical Week 18, a winner-go-home weekend for some teams in the NFL. Also, Kyle Glazer will join us coming up at 5 p.m. But on the other side, Steve Kerr, is he still a good coach or not? That's next on Jon and Jim. So earlier today, I was over at San Diego State. Brian Dutcher had availability with the media, and on my way out of there, head over to Windmill Farms, located just about a minute or so from campus at San Diego State. Picked up my lunch there, as I typically do. Use my sandwich card because my 8th sandwich is free, and I was over there at the deli, in and out in just a matter of a few minutes. It's a perfect spot to pick up lunch during your work week because they've got everything you could possibly imagine in their deli. They have low prices for their sandwiches. They really pride themselves on that. And they use fresh, high quality ingredients as well. In addition to having everything you need for your lunch, they've got everything you need for your shopping needs in general with the organic farm fresh produce and meats, the craft beer selection, their kombucha. Picked up some Nova kombucha earlier today at Windmill Farms. And again, they're centrally located. They support local businesses. They're family owned. They've been family owned, serving San Diegans for over 20 years, and they support local businesses like Harris Ranch, Mr. G Salsa, and others. Visit windmillfarms.com. You'll see some of the weekly specials which are updated each and every week at Windmill Farms Market. Here's the other thing: if you don't live or work near the college area, you can find Windmill Farms on Instacart. Have your groceries delivered directly to your doorstep. Nothing is easier than that in San Diego. And if you're in the area, shop local, shop at Windmill Farms. Oh, my
Whoa there.
headphones are falling off. Here's an interesting story that I just saw published in the UT from our boy Kraz. And by our boy, I mean, I don't think he's ever been on the show, but whatever.
He's never been.
Okay, so interestingly,
Our boy.
and Brent's going to like this, since the Chargers have moved, they still have gotten local TV treatment. That's a story that's as old as time, right? The point is the Chargers are on TV in San Diego, right?
Yeah.
San Diegans, we know that. You turn on the TV, they're on. They've elected against doing it this weekend. Chargers are
Oh,
cooked.
please tell me they're going to play the Bear Packer
That's
game.
exactly what they're
Thank
going to do.
God.
So they've elected for the first time in this era of the Chargers not being in San Diego to not use them as a home team distinction in San Diego and just air the better game. Because
about damn
who are the
time.
Chargers playing? It's meaningless.
Chiefs.
Completely meaningless.
Yeah.
Completely meaningless. But there is a game that has serious value. The Packers are playing their way in with a win, right?
Yep. If they win, they're in, and I think if the Packers win and the Rams lose in another meaningless game this weekend,
Because the Rams are in.
Rams are already in,
Yep.
but the Rams will be the 7 seed. Packers will be the 6 seed. That means the Packers would face the Lions and the Rams would face the Cowboys.
But here's the overall point.
Yes.
That San Diegans aren't stupid. Like NFL fans want good NFL games. I get it. If the San Diego Chargers play in San Diego, of course, air the San Diego Chargers. I don't care if they're 0-16. Of course, they're going to air in San Diego. But guess what? They left by their own fruition. It was their choice. So why hijack the viewing audience for decades to come? Because the organization made a decision. Now, shouldn't fans be able to make a decision, like getting other games? If you want to watch the Chargers, there's ways to watch the Chargers. But if you want a compelling game with playoff implications, at least San Diegans this weekend, for like the first time in 7 years, will have the option to not watch the Chargers locally and get the better quote unquote national game.
I never have that problem because I just get the package.
But most people have
Yeah.
that problem. I mean, there might be 3 million people in the country with the package. Well, there's 300 million people.
True.
So 99% of people don't pay for the NFL package.
I know, but it's for me, it's hard to put myself in that mind space.
Imagine
because
being Marty. She sits there. She's got like her
Oh my
2 full
gosh.
games on.
Marty, it's
right?
time. It's time to get the NFL package. It just is.
Mhm.
Like, don't put yourself through this anymore. I know that you have a tough time sometimes dealing with like the single games that are on CBS and Fox and upset maybe because you can't watch other games. It's time to get the NFL package. Trust me, it's worth it.
This idea that you can hijack a market even though you left it should it's one thing. Listen, it's professional sports. Owners are rich. They play by their own rules. They have their own set of circumstances. Nobody can relate to being an owner of an NFL team. It's absurd. But why we need to also play by their rules after they left is also absurd. They left. Why on earth would every single Chargers game in perpetuity be on San Diego television after leaving?
Hey, you're preaching for the first couple years. It was a lot of just hate watch,
No doubt.
and they misunderstood that they were still getting good ratings. Not because I think the majority of those people watching the game were cheering for the Chargers,
But they were watching because they were mad.
that there was a good chunk of people watching to hope that they lost
Sure.
in dramatic fashion,
No doubt.
which they actually delivered,
Accomplished.
and they definitely accomplished that most of the time. But yeah, can we just stop with this market has to go to the Chargers or the Rams? Like,
is this the beginning of the end?
I
Or
hope
is
it
week
is.
1 of 2024
if you're
back to, the Chargers are playing the Jags. Got to get them on.
dude, if you're a market that doesn't have an NFL team, you just put on the best games.
Well,
It's
that's
that
what they
simple.
do. That's what they do. In markets that didn't previously have teams. Like, that's a good point. In St. Louis,
Are they
a
putting
world
Rams
away,
on?
are they getting Rams games every single week? I
No.
would guess no.
No one.
So why are we
no.
doing it in San Diego? Just because of proximity to Los Angeles, but it's
Yeah.
a world away as well.
Well, so some people, it's just a couple hours up the road.
But from a sports view, like San Diegans aren't, I'm a San Diegan, so I root for all the LA teams too. Philadelphians aren't like, I'm close to New York.
I know.
I love the Yanks. It doesn't work like that. And if they don't root for the Rams in St. Louis now that they're in LA, then maybe they don't root for the Chargers anymore now that they're in LA.
Right.
So I hope it's the beginning of like the end, because for 7 consecutive years, you've aired 17 consecutive regular season Chargers games locally.
I'll tell you this. If the Chargers do the kind of unthinkable just because they're cheap and get Jim Harbaugh, I'll bet you any
Well,
amount of
course they'll
money,
be on.
any amount of money that this market will cave and get back on its knees for that team. Guarantee it.
So you do. So I agree with you. I think that if we could fast forward a decade from now, I would guess that 95% plus of Charger games continue to air locally in San Diego.
Oh,
from
for
now,
sure.
from 10 years from now, I
Yeah,
think 95% of the games air
Yeah,
locally.
local CBS will bend the knee.
Well, I don't even
to
think
that team.
it's not even local. It's like a directive. This is the National Football League. It gets like
I know.
pushed down.
Well, whoever's in
Yeah,
charge of it.
exactly.
Whoever's
I
in
don't think there's
charge,
just some random guy in the
Yeah.
office locally.
whoever makes the call will bend the knee to that franchise if they are any competent, which is, I mean, rare for that team and franchise.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling, if they get Jim Harbaugh, dude, we're going to see that team all the time. So this is not, I feel like, a beginning of the end.
It's
I
just
wish
a
it
one-off.
was. I wish it was, but it's a one-off because you got a team that
Just a 5-11.
sucks versus another team that's resting everybody and not playing Patrick Mahomes.
Okay, so the other story we mentioned there on the way into break was the fact that Jonathan Kuminga of the Warriors last night called out Steve Kerr,
Good.
which is interesting. I mean, you know a lot more about Jonathan Kuminga than I do. I could compare Kuminga's accomplishments to the Warriors to Steve Kerr's accomplishments as both a player and a coach, but certainly as a coach of the Warriors, they don't seem to be on an equal playing field or court. But the tide's turning with Steve Kerr with the Warriors under 500 right now. Is that accurate?
Oh, yeah.
It's already turned?
Yeah.
I mean, they're only 2 years removed from a championship, right?
We talked about it when Draymond Green got like the big overarching topic. You don't want to get in the weeds here, but the overarching topic is like, okay, is this it for the Warriors? Like, are they done? Like,
Yep.
Who's going to be the first domino to fall? Some could say that it was their general manager who left to go to ESPN, or some would say it's Draymond Green who can't stop being an idiot on the court. But to me, like, the core issue is when your coach loses your team for any sport, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
It's done. And they're on the verge of that right now. That coach, Steve Kerr, he's done fantastic there. But when you can't get everybody to buy in, no matter who you are, it's over for you as a coach. You're done.
Even with the how many rings is it?
4.
4 rings, one as recently as 2 years ago. And even without current buy-in from this Warriors group.
Is he a bad coach? No. But he has stuck in his ways. Like, when you win a lot, why would you go back and do something that you haven't done before that got you to the place you are now? Like, why would you change? Well, you might change a little bit, but hey, I'm winning this. I'm doing this. I'm like, why would you change? You're not going to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in any walk of life. If you are winning at something, or if you're being successful at something, you're going to continue to do that until literally the wheels fall off. And that's where this franchise is at right now.
But is that on Kerr?
Yeah.
It's on Kerr.
Well, it's on everybody. But Kerr, I mean, the guy, you know this.
Yeah, you're not going to replace, right. The players can't go anywhere.
The players can't be like, hey, I'm going in the game.
Right.
Like, you got to be put in the game. And
So because they lose one game with Jonathan Kuminga on the bench and Steve Kerr is not the right guy for the job?
It's been bubbling for a while. And plus, he's a guy that just can't coach and does not want to coach young guys.
He can't coach young guys.
Yeah.
But he did previously, did he not?
Who?
At the beginning of this run, Steve Kerr.
Steph and Clay and Draymond were in the league for multiple years.
He got there in
before that.
2014.
They were in the league for like 4 or 5 years before that.
Dude, but they were young, were they not? They couldn't have been older than mid-20s.
They weren't rookies.
Okay. Well, he was hired. I'm looking it up.
Anyway.
May 14th, 2014. How old was Steph Curry? Young. 23?
It's the beginning of the end. It's over. Steve Kerr, I would be shocked if he's back. And this will just be, in a couple years, Steph will be the only person on that team.
Yeah, probably. So Steph's 35. So 10 years ago when he was hired. Okay, he would have been 25. That's fair. Not a first.
That's fine.
Play.
4 championships, 6 finals.
Yeah, I'm not putting it
on,
I wouldn't put it on him. As in good luck to the next. You got the aging Curry at 35 and Draymond at 35 and
it's
Klay
one
Thompson.
Of those where how much of it was because of Steve Kerr and how much it was just because
well,
the
no
team
doubt
was
you're not
stacked.
winning without
You know,
Steph
my
Curry.
prime example of that was always, Luke Walton. What he went like 30-1 in that stretch when Kerr had his back surgery. And
we can say
everyone,
the same thing about.
well, I know, but everyone donned him like the next big head
Phil
coach.
Jackson.
And yeah, but Phil Jackson left and went to another team and won a
with multiple
championship. So if Kerr leaves and goes to another team,
But he was
wins
also
a championship.
stacked with players. So it's the chicken and egg.
It is.
Chicken
It
and
is. All right, on the other side, we're going to get to the wrap. Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network. She'll join us at 4:30 ahead of this crucial Week 18 in the National Football League. Kyle Glazer from Baseball America swings by. His thoughts of the Padres offseason at 5 p.m. Stay with us on Jon and Jim.
This update is brought to you by DraftKings. We'll start with baseball news of the day. Giants, they traded Mitch Haniger and Anthony DeSclafani to the Mariners for former Cy Young Award pitcher Robbie Ray. Of course, Robbie Ray had Tommy John surgery last season. He's going to be out for majority of the upcoming year. Aztecs take on UNLV tomorrow at Viejas Arena, 1 p.m. tip-off. Noon is when our pregame coverage starts, and because of a water pipe bursting at Pechanga Arena, all events, including the Gulls games this weekend, have been postponed, and this update's been brought to you by DraftKings.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 2, Jon and Jim. We're with you tonight until 6 p.m. We've got good guests lined up for you over the next 2 hours, including Cynthia Freeland from the NFL Network. She will make her return. We'll get you ready for Week 18 in the postseason. Then Kyle Glazer from Baseball America is on the show at 5 p.m. We remind you, you can listen or watch literally from anywhere. I heard from someone last night. There was someone in our comments on YouTube that said, thanks for the show I'm watching in Malaysia.
We have people watch from literally everywhere. People in Utah, across the seas, in Mexico. It's
right. With the iHeartRadio app, you can listen from anywhere. It's free.
Yeah.
Take us with you wherever you're going. Okay. That's the easiest way to listen. Of course, San Diego Sports 760. And then if you're on YouTube, search for Jon and Jim 760. There's people watching us live right now. You can watch live or on replay, just like you can with the iHeartRadio app. You can listen live or on replay. So anyway, Cynthia Freeland at 4:30. Kyle Glazer will join us coming up at 5 p.m. We have Aztec basketball for you tomorrow. Aztecs and Rebels at 1 p.m. with pregame coverage outside Viejas beginning at noon. Right now, let's get to this.
Is tomorrow's game versus UNLV a must-win game for the Aztecs?
Must-win game, Jim.
Where's UNLV in the net?
It's a really good question. Not as high as they should be.
That'll determine my answer.
This is a quad 3 home game.
It's a must-win game.
They are 117th.
It's a must-win game.
Okay, must-win?
Yeah. That's how I view any game in college basketball now. Where is it as far as quad rankings?
Right. If they're highly ranked, it's not a must-win game. If they're quote-unquote lowly ranked, it becomes a must-win
If it's a quad 1 or even a quad 2, maybe on the road, then it's not like the end of the world. It's quad 3, quad 4, must-win game.
Yeah,
must
this is
game,
a quad
especially
3.
at home.
UNLV is talented. They've beaten good teams like Creighton this year on neutral floors. But I'm not calling it a must-win game because I don't think it is. But you got to hold serve at home against teams like UNLV that could give you a good game. But San Diego State needs to find a way. Even if they don't have Reese Waters, I hope that they do have Waters.
Yeah,
we'll see about Miles Bird. But Aztecs got to find a way to win this game to continue the trajectory they're on right now. Next question.
Do you think Monday's national title game will be a close game?
Yeah, because every big game this year that Washington's played in has been a close game. They just, that's how it is. They should have blown out Texas, but they got cute with about 4 minutes left. They started chucking it down the field. It's like, guys, what are we doing here?
Right, just trying to hold on to your lead, right?
And for some reason, not just kneeling down and then having the injury timeout give Texas a chance. It's a little wonky, but I think it's going to be a close game just because Washington plays in close games all year.
I think it's going to be a very close game. I think it's going to be a really good game. I hope it plays out a little bit like the Rose Bowl in terms of keeps us interested for all 60-plus minutes. I'd be very surprised if either team won by 2 scores. I mean, Washington has this incredible streak. They haven't won by more than 10 since their conference opener. Now, Michigan's beaten some people badly, but they don't score at a high clip. They're not scoring 50 points a game. I think it'll be a good game, something like a 28-27, 28-24 type game. Next question.
Who wins the Bills-Dolphins game for the AFC East?
Bills really, I think, came out of nowhere here to where they're legitimate threats in the AFC now. I think, would you say that the Bills and the Browns are the 2 teams that you could potentially see knocking off the Ravens? I don't think anyone's knocking off the Ravens. I just think that those are the only two teams that could. But to answer the question, Bills, I think, are going to win because the Dolphins effed everything up and they lost Bradley Chubb to the year for playing him and getting injured, down 30 points to the Ravens the other day. And they just, I think the Bills going to win that game and get the 2 seed.
By the way, I think the Ravens absolutely can be beat in the postseason. You look at Lamar Jackson's postseason career, home loss to the Chargers. That's embarrassing. Where was this game? Home loss to the Titans in 2019. A road loss at Buffalo in 2020, and then a road loss at Cincinnati. I mean, it leaves a lot to be desired. He's 1-4 all time in the postseason, so I don't think it's some coronation that the Ravens are going to be in the Super Bowl. And I think the way Buffalo's playing as a 2 seed, needing potentially just one road game to get to the Super Bowl, that would not shock me at all. If Buffalo went through Baltimore to potentially get to a Super Bowl, that wouldn't shock me.
You're right. Baltimore has a lot of pressure because there has not been good playoff history with Lamar Jackson. It's been a lot of disappointment, especially the year. I think the 2019 team, you could argue, is better than the 2023 team.
Right.
And they were amazing that year. And he won the MVP, which he's going to win the MVP again this year.
Right.
So there's pressure on them for sure. But it's not like I don't know, man. I think that they're the team to beat in the AFC.
They're definitely the team to beat.
Yeah,
they are. But I think, to your point, I think Buffalo, even a Cleveland with Joe Flacco, as crazy as that sounds.
Well, they would face Cleveland in the second round. Well, the division
their first
round.
game.
Yeah. That would be.
Can't be losing to Cleveland at home if you're Baltimore.
Could you imagine a Cleveland
Baltimore with the histories?
Just like a AFC title game of who would Cleveland and who else? Buffalo.
Yeah. But even Cleveland Baltimore playoff game, thinking about the histories of the franchise.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Would be pretty compelling. All right. Next question.
Are the Padres really the 4th best team in the NL West?
You can't definitively say that right now. I think they're still better than the Giants. So that would make them at least the 3rd best team in the NL West.
Okay.
I think that the Diamondbacks put it together last year, and they have, I think, a better overall pitching staff than the Padres. And their young talent actually has performed.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see why you can't. Depending on the rest of the moves the Padres make, why they can't win 85 games, and that would be would they still be the 3rd best team in the NL West? I don't know.
I guess potentially it is a fair point that Arizona won 84 games.
Yeah,
but of course they won a lot of games in the postseason, and it's hard to your point. There's so much still to be decided. Like to say that the Padres are the 3rd best team and the 4th best team. Well, we don't know what these rosters are going to look like. But I'm telling you right now, and tell me if you think I'm wrong. I don't think there's anything the Padres can do that will show us at Fangraphs when they put out like these Pythagorean rankings or when people pick divisions in magazines and online. I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of Padres projected to finish 2nd in the NL West.
Good.
Do you agree with that, though? Like, I don't think there'll be anyone saying they're the 2nd best team in the NL West. Coming off a year where the Diamondbacks are in the World Series and the Dodgers spent like they have unlimited resources. I think it's either the 3rd or the 4th is what you're going to see basically everywhere.
And why I say good there is because this team, they just could not handle the pressure last year.
Pick them 5th.
At all. Say what you want, and they can tell you that that pressure didn't get to them. Absolutely did. 100%.
Yeah,
they could not deal with the pressure at all from all the moves they made in the offseason to making it to the NLCS the previous year. The money, Manny mature, like they just could not handle the pressure at all. So good. Pick them 4th. Pick them 3rd. Whatever. Maybe that will actually light a fire under their ass to try and start out fast instead of the old stupid cliche. Well, we're just working our way in the season. Like, no. You can't start next year slow. I feel like.
Yeah, I agree with that.
After coming off of what happened in 2023.
Right. Like 2022 fast start. 2021 fast start. Wheels fell off. 2020 fast start. That was the short year.
Mm-hmm.
But they started really well. 20, 21, 22. They didn't replicate that in 2023. We know the end result. I'm with you. I think the path, the more you think about it, is like, get off to a good start. You didn't do it a year ago. You sleptwalked through the first 5 months. You should play good baseball until September by and large. Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter on January 5th whether they're the 3rd best team or the 4th best team in the division. They're better than the Rockies. They're not going to be picked ahead of the Dodgers. By most, they're not going to be picked ahead of the Diamondbacks. But the thing is, we've said this so much over the last 2 years, you can finish third in your division, get to the postseason, and have a better year than the team that wins your division.
Yeah, it's about the mindset going into this year. If you truly are going to make the playoffs, can't be the mindset that Mike Schilt has, even though it's nice to say we got to try to beat the Dodgers and win the division. Like, you just got to get in, dude. Just get in.
By the way, I'm going to have a very strong opinion about the state of the Padres and the Giants after April 7th, because the Padres will have played the Giants by April 7th 7 times.
What?
By April 7th, 4 at home, 3 on the road. By
then,
April 7th, then they'll have 5 or 6 remaining games.
And then will have played 2 against the Dodgers.
Correct. So you'll have played, 9 of your first 12, the other 3 being the Cardinals. 9 of your first 12 against the Giants and the Dodgers. You will too. I will have strong opinions on the Padres after 12 games.
Yeah,
I know that.
The season's over or they're the greatest team ever assembled.
By the way, then they play another series against the Dodgers April 12th through 14th. I'm going to have very strong opinions by mid-April on the San Diego Padres.
Well, is it better to get it out of the way now or?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Like, you want to make sure that you're at full strength when you face those teams. You don't want anything wonky to happen in the middle of the season and whatnot, but you're also going to be facing their full strength as well, depending on what other moves the Giants make, if they make any other moves. And we know what happened with the Dodgers. I mean, you're going to be seeing a lot of Yamamoto and Ohtani and Betts and Freeman.
Okay. At 3 a.m. Pacific, but again, it's Padres Dodgers. It's Shohei Ohtani making his LA Dodgers debut.
Yes.
You've got potentially multiple Koreans on the Padres in Kim and Go, the newcomer in their bullpen. Man, you got Yamamoto, like you said. I mean, it's very intriguing. I know we're going to read way too much into it. Everyone always does that with opening day in general. Like, oh my gosh, can you believe the Yankees lost on opening day, or the Dodgers are 0-1?
Garrett Cole gave up 6 runs. Is he washed?
Exactly. So we're going to make these sweeping judgments. And then it's almost like the NFL. You're going to sit on them. They're going to play 2 games, then they're not going to play for a week. And you're like, man, Dodgers are 2-0.
Yeah, that is baseball.
Right?
It's how the sport is. It's a marathon, not a sprint, John.
Right.
That's just how baseball is. So guess what? We'll react accordingly. If they end up winning their first 2 games versus the Dodgers in Korea, I mean, might as well start booking World Series, tickets now and hotel venues for on the road.
What kind of odds can I get on that? I want to get Chris Hodge on. What are the odds? Like, if the Padres win both in Korea, can I get like 15-1 on that?
Oh,
I'll make a 15-1 flyer bet on that. Games played in Korea in March.
They win like 7-1 and 5-2.
That'd be amazing. That'd be the greatest start ever. And then you sit on it for a week and you see all these Dodgers fans cry for a week.
Oh, love it.
You look at the standings. Padres are 2-0. Dodgers are 0-2. Why'd you waste all this money this offseason?
Spend $1 billion for this crap?
Right. Winning off seasons, but not winning in regular season.
Padres spent like $8 million this past offseason.
Now, if the opposite happens,
well,
we're gonna be sitting here for a week.
Oh man, that's gonna suck. That's gonna be such a weird feeling how they're gonna be playing 2 games and then go right back to spring training
for another 2 or 3 games. And then play.
And then go right to the regular season again.
Here's what I don't love about this Seoul series. And I like the early baseball because why not? I mean, I wish they were playing right now. Gives us more to talk about.
We've already talked about doing live streams for 3 a.m. Korean games.
Which we're going to be doing. But what I don't love about it is it coincides with day 1 of the NCAA tournament. Now, now the first game of the season is March 20th, which is a Wednesday. And I like to look at the NCAA tournament starting on a Thursday. Of course, you have those Tuesday, Wednesday opening round games. But like the day that the Padres are playing the Dodgers in Korea could be a day that San Diego State hopefully finds themselves in the NCAA tournament. Like I like the attention given to the first round of the NCAA tournament. But this year, I guess the more the merrier, because we're going to have not just the first round of the NCAA tournament that weekend, but we're also going to have Padres Dodgers. Like that's a first.
Oh yeah.
We've never been talking about Major League Baseball or Padres baseball and a game day, the day 1 of the NCAA tournament.
And it's not going to interfere with the tournament at all. It's
going not at 3 a.m.
Not at 3 a.m. It's going to be before all that. I would have had a problem if somehow that the Korean series was
like
on
in the afternoon
during March Madness. That'd be a problem. And it would be, once again, baseball having no clue whatsoever how to market their game properly.
Right.
But it's not, so we don't have to worry about it. It's just if you're a Padres fan and you're also a diehard Aztec fan, and the Aztecs happen to play on that Thursday, it's gonna be a long day for you because it'll be a long day for us.
Honestly, is a good thing because if you're a San Diego sports fan, unlike being a fan in New York or LA or some of these huge cities with 4+ Big Four teams, like you get a lot of activity if you're in New York and you have a zillion sporting events going on. San Diego, there's a lot of like down time in your year.
You think?
So if you get a Padres-Dodgers game followed by like a 5-12 game involving San Diego State against, I'm making it up, Seton Hall, like that's a pretty intriguing sports day in San Diego, where again, you stumble into those days in LA all the time as you have like the Lakers and the NBA finals or the Western Conference finals and whatever else is going on in LA each and every day. So I guess the more the merrier. But it's better than the alternative of San Diego State not being in the NCAA tournament.
It'll be a fun Thursday though.
Oh, super fun.
Yeah.
Super fun. No, I can't wait. I can't wait for the start of the season. I can't wait to see how they finish out this roster. But I can't wait for the start of the season, even though the expectations are completely different for me. It feels different than it felt a year ago, but I mean, hope springs eternal.
I mean, my expectations, John, is still like you spend all this money. Their payroll is still going to be fairly high compared to past. If you end up with a payroll at 190 million or 192 or whatever the case may be million, like you're still hovering around top 10 payroll. You're expected to not only make the postseason, but make a run of the World Series.
I know, but those aren't those aren't my expectations.
And if they don't make the postseason next year, and if they don't even get close to a World Series, which they couldn't if they didn't make the postseason,
that'd be hard.
Very hard. Then time for a change. Preller's got to go, and it's over.
I agree. It's just I'm just being like if I got to be honest, and the way I feel is I don't feel as if my expectations are, or even most Padres fans' realistic expectations are getting anywhere near a World Series. That's just how I feel. Because I see Melvin depart. I see. I mean, who even knows about exactly? I see all these moves. I see Hader gone. I see Snell gone, and I don't see a team that's going to be in the World Series. And I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, the unfortunate passing to Peter. Just I know. I agree with you. It's hard for me because then if we lower expectations down to a point where we are just looking at this team as, they had some nice developmental pieces this year, and they won some games, and it was fun here, and
and Jackson Merrill, a big second half.
Yeah, Jackson Merrill, the future's bright for him. Hey, did you see Dylan Lesko come up and throw a couple good outings? Like, that was great. Then we're resorting back to, hey, Preller gets another pass, and I'm sorry, but there ain't any more passes for this guy. This is it. So going from the expectations that were last year and the last couple of seasons, which was deep postseason runs, and especially last year was like kind of felt like World Series or bust type of feeling, to then just go to what I feel the expectation internally will be, which is developmental year, then that means you're just giving another pass to AJ Preller. And I can't do that.
I can't do that either. And I hope internally they treat it like we have to do everything in our power to win. But then again, maybe that sets the organization back if you do that.
Like, there should be some big time, big boy pressure here, right?
That's a really good question. You're saying internal pressure?
Yeah.
Or external? Fan base or organization?
I would say more from the organization.
Well, I think there better be from the organization, because like the organization's like on the line.
Like, from an organizational standpoint, inside that, Echo Park, shouldn't there be, hey, we have to make the postseason this year or else we're in trouble? Or do you not think that's the case?
No, I think it's the case, because I don't think you can spin it. Even if it's not their plan, it will be their plan when they hear from the fan base. There's already been so much consternation, 2021 and 2023. How could you couple it with 2024 on the outside? You're going to miss the postseason in 21, 23, and 24 with the top 10 payroll?
You can't.
And then, I mean, you could do it, but then you have to make change.
But then who's going to make that change? Who is going
Eric
to?
Hatsenda.
Okay.
As we know from all of his speakings with the media, he's not going to put up with a team that does not make the postseason in 2024.
Do you think that they view this season as a pressure-filled we have to make the postseason type of year?
I don't know. I don't know. I hope we hear from Eric Atsenda to get some of those answers on February 15th or whenever camp opens.
Because that's where I stand going into this season for the expectations of it. You got to win. I don't care about the actions that you created for yourself, the problems that you made for yourself. You're coming off of the most disappointing season in franchise history. 2 of the last 3 years have been failures. This guy has been here for a decade. If not now, when?
Yeah.
Got to
But
change.
I know, and it just seems like if not last year, then when? If
So-
not 2023.
So yeah,
then when?
are they not dragging their feet, but are they switching the mindset of, well, it's okay if we don't make the postseason as long as we have some guys that develop, or is it we have to make the postseason?
I don't think they know.
I don't think they know either.
I don't think they know what they need to do in 2024, and that alone is concerning. All right, Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network. She'll get us ready for a huge NFL weekend, Week 18 in the NFL, ahead of wild card round in the National Football League. We will give away tickets coming up later this hour to see Chicago and Earth, Wind, and Fire at the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. That's later this hour. And Kyle Glazer from Baseball America, his thoughts on the Padres offseason. He'll join us coming up at 5 p.m. Stay with us on Jon and Jim. All right, I've been telling you about my friends over at Windmill Farms. I was on the Mesa earlier today with San Diego State men's basketball as they get ready for UNLV tomorrow. And I swung by Windmill Farms for lunch. It was quick and easy, and this is where you should be spending your lunches as well. If you're on the run, you're looking for something affordable but also healthy, you got to consider Windmill Farms in the college area. With a sandwich card, you're going to get your 8th sandwich for free. At their deli, they have everything you could possibly want, and they'll make it for you in just minutes. I mean, an incredible selection with high-quality ingredients, the freshest ingredients, and really low prices as well. So, again, during your work week, when you're looking for lunch, make sure to swing by the deli over at Windmill Farms. And as you're doing your grocery shopping, there is no better place. Windmill Farms is family-run for over 20 years with San Diegans. Trevor and his family supporting local businesses in our community like Harris Ranch, Mr. G Salsa, and others. Even if you don't live or work near Del Cerro, you can find Windmill Farms and Instacart, and you can have your groceries delivered directly to your doorstep. They've got everything you need: produce and meats, organic and farm fresh, amazing beer, craft beer, kombucha, and more. The deli, it's a phenomenal place. Easy parking, easy in and out access as well. And you can take advantage of their weekly specials by visiting windmillfarmsmarket.com. Those are updated each and every week at windmillfarmsmarket.com. So again, if you're looking for your game day needs over the weekend or your work day needs to pick up lunch, shop local, shop at Windmill Farms.
All right, this update is brought to you by DraftKings. Aztecs, they play tomorrow afternoon at Viejas Arena versus UNLV, 1 p.m. tip-off. Noon Pacific is when our pregame cover starts right here on San Diego Sports 760. Baseball trade today. The Giants traded Mitch Haniger and pitcher Anthony DeSclafani to the Mariners for former Cy Young Award pitcher Robbie Ray. Because of a water pipe bursting at Pechanga Arena, all events, including the Gulls game this weekend, have been postponed. And this update's been brought to you by DraftKings.
All right, Kyle Glazer, Baseball America on the Padres coming up at 5 p.m. Later this hour, your chance to win tickets to see Chicago and Earth, Wind, and Fire, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater, August 31st. Tickets and info at livenation.com. But it's great to connect with Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network's analytics expert. You can see her on NFL Network's NFL Game Day morning, Sunday starting at 6 a.m. Pacific. Back with us on Jon and Jim here in San Diego. So, Cynthia, we always appreciate your time. It's hard to believe that it's week 18. And it's also hard to believe that the Texans and Colts are playing for a playoff spot, considering where they were a year ago, right? They played this game a year ago, like the top pick in the draft is on the line. A year later, they're playing to get into the postseason. This is shocking, right?
Super shocking. And if you think about it, they're doing it with Gardner Minshew on the Colts side of the ball. It's not even like they have Anthony Richardson, who obviously started the season really well, but got hurt a long time ago. So what both teams have been able to do is really a testament to their coaches and also the players for buying in.
We have probably the biggest game of the weekend. Bills Dolphins is the Sunday night game. Winner gets the 2 seed. Bills are, at risk of potentially missing the postseason if they lose that game. How do you see this one shaking out? And what did you make of what the Dolphins did last week when they were down by 30 versus the Ravens and losing Bradley Chubb in the process?
Yeah, Bradley Chubb is a massive loss. Obviously, it looks different in hindsight. I mean, you can only make the best decision in the moment, and I don't think anyone was malicious in that. Vic Fangio, to me, that's just the best decision you can make. But look, I think this game, I think the Bills end up winning this game. Why? Because their O-line is just lights out this season. Not only do the Bills have the highest run success rate for next-gen stats at 47.3%, that's a really big testament to the O-line, but also Josh Allen's had his best season from inside the pocket. So it's a good thing to watch, and he has the lowest sack rate in the NFL. I'm not suggesting that Josh Allen's been perfect this season. We've seen some interceptions, but without Bradley Chubb now, in addition to Jalen Phillips, and without Xavier Howard likely playing, they're probably going to pick on Eli Apple, which to me means a really good game for Stephon Diggs, perhaps getting them some of their chemistry back heading into the postseason.
Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network, with us right now on Jon and Jim. Where do you start when people ask you what's wrong with the Philadelphia Eagles?
Honestly, it's the defense. I looked at this a million times. Sure, their offense isn't getting the same number of explosive plays that we saw at the beginning of the season. A.J. Brown, we know there were 6 games where he had 125 yards. We get it. But look, the defense has given them a really big cause for concern, and that then limits your opportunities to disguise what your offense is doing. The biggest advantage that offense has is the threat of runner pass on every single down. Well, it's much harder to do that if you're in an obvious passing down situation. So it's, to me, the defense and the fact that, in almost every metric you can speak to, like EPA, so expected points added, et cetera, this team has taken a massive step back, and perhaps it's gotten a little better with Matt Patricia, like 8 points per game. But if you look at who their opponents were and the 8 points per game different, it's not like they're playing double offenses. So I think that, that was a big strong point for them last season, and this season it's the same as it's holding true.
So the NFL MVP debate has been one that's been talked about a lot this season. I feel like it ended a couple weeks ago in that Niners-Ravens game when Brock Purdy threw 4 interceptions, and then Lamar Jackson had a pretty decent game, and then he threw 5 touchdowns versus the Dolphins last week. But when you look at his stats overall, Cynthia, they're not eye-popping stats. The team record is really good, and their advanced analytics are really good. But what do you make of this year's MVP winner, which will probably be Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, I feel like maybe something's happened with voters where we overestimate primetime wins and the quarterback's influence on them, because I would still argue that guys like Tyreek Hill and Christian McCaffrey, who aren't even quarterbacks, should be in consideration for it. But it feels like they're like, no, that's for offensive player of the year. But, I think that those primetime games going into the stretch on what is likely the best team in the entire league, we just overweight them in our mind, right? Like, the Lions game where the Ravens just came out gangbusters against the Lions. Like, I actually thought Lamar Jackson looked more MVP in that game than he has in the past 2 weeks. But I mean, again, I digress. That's kind of a different thing. But I think those commanding wins over the NFC really put him over the top.
Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network, with us right now, and Jon and Jim. Again, you can catch your NFL Network's NFL Game Day morning, Sunday, starting at 6 a.m. It is Week 18 of the National Football League's regular season. Cynthia, what would be more surprising to you, the Niners not in the Super Bowl or the Ravens not in the Super Bowl?
That's a great question. Because it feels like these one-game sample sizes, like, it's easy to beat a team once, right? Like, have a bad day, whatever. But it's like, so to me, like, if the Ravens draw a matchup like the Browns, who they clearly, they have a lot of experience with them. And the last time they matched up, you saw some of that, the area sort of running right at those great linebackers were an area of success for the Browns. And Joe Flacco's been crushing it. And to me, he's my comeback player of the year. But it just feels like the AFC is more loaded top to bottom. So the disparity between the teams is just a little bit closer, as opposed to the NFC, where it just feels like it's like there's a couple, like, it feels like, many of these wild card teams, you're like, that's fun. Not like, oh, wow, they're a true contender.
But if you had to pick in the NFC one team besides the Niners and one team in the AFC besides the Ravens, who would those teams be?
On the AFC side, I actually think that the Bills could be really feisty going into the playoffs. Their defense has improved so much. They're getting pieces back with Daquan Jones. They went out and got Rasul Douglas kind of at the right time to help mitigate the losses from Tre'Davious White. So if the Bills are on, they're very on. And I think that in a one-game sample size, that would be the one I'd be more scared of. And then on the other side, it's very interesting to me, and I feel a little like a homer saying this, but what I saw with the Lions against the Cowboys game, I'm from Michigan, by the way. So a Cowboys game where I think that the Lions should have won. And Michigan, we are actually typically anti-Lions. We're like, oh, they're just going to break our hearts. That's how it's been. But I feel like the Lions could get going, and they get CJ Gardner-Johnson back. And that is where you saw, even with CeeDee Lamb absolutely smoking their secondary, the Lions were still in that game, and very much, in my opinion, it's hard for me to say it didn't look like they won that game, because it certainly looked like it to me. So, they're very much in it. So the Lions could get in their right groove at the right time and be disruptive because they take a lot of risks. So that's kind of like high risk, high reward situation in a one game sample size.
I just looked this up as you were talking, Cynthia, about the Lions. We all know their postseason history is horrific, but today is actually the anniversary of their last postseason win, January 5th, 1992. That's unbelievable. They've lost 8 consecutive. That's a long time. That's unbelievable. Now, again, what does 1992 have to do with 2023-24? Maybe nothing. And maybe they can win a couple of games in the postseason. But do you have to overcome that as an organization? Like, we just don't win in the postseason? Is that something they need to overcome?
It feels like if there were ever a coach who's the poster child for like being able to, make the drama work for you, it feels like Dan Campbell's that guy. I'll take the L here. I was completely wrong on him coming into being the coach. I was like, this guy's all smoke, no bark. And they've done a really nice job of creating some they have some teeth in there, right? Like, they're actually winning games. They beat the Chiefs. That was crazy. Obviously the Chiefs dropped a bunch of passes, but they've been through some adversity in that grit. So maybe it's better for them to feel like this sort of underdog situation. But, Lions fans in general, I feel like, I'm gonna be honest with you, we all got a little teary-eyed. I talked to many people in the media, and we're like, I can't believe it happened. 30 years is such a long time. The line was out the door, like 4 blocks down the street to even get tickets for, one game that they're guaranteed.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh my God, they're in the playoffs. My chiropractor is a huge Lions fan as well. He's the same exact way. Cynthia, there are still some things to be decided here. Packers win, they're obviously in. If the Rams beat the Niners, then it's a 3-6 matchup. Rams versus the Lions. So there's still some things to be decided. But if it shapes out, certain ways, what matchup are you looking forward to most for opening wild card weekend?
I want to know what exactly. I want to see the Cowboys. I want to see if they're for real because, obviously we look at the Cowboys and we look at the Eagles and it's always back and forth. Oh, the Cowboys are good. Oh, the Eagles, whatever. But I want to see if the Cowboys can sustain, like, their offensive line woes have been real. Bringing La'el Collins in this week, to me, they go as far as their O-line goes because Dak's had an awesome year. But a lot of what's been awesome about it has been because their O-line has handled the shifts, the stunts, all the different things that defense simulated pressures. They've done a really nice job dealing with that and giving Dak a nice clean pocket to work with for even a half a second longer. So I'm curious, I could have made an argument if things would have shaken out a few different ways that Dak would have at least been in contention for the MVP award. A while back, we would have maybe thought that, but I want to see if they can actually continue this and have a deep run in the playoffs because I feel like every September we're like, it's the Cowboys year. And every, January we're like, we'll get them next year. That's the kind of the thing that we hear about the Cowboys the most.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. You'd have to go back to the 90s as well for the Cowboys. Now, obviously, their postseason success a little different in the 1990s. Cynthia Freeland with us from the NFL Network. Cynthia, one more from me before you go. Are the Chargers a good head coach away from being good?
They've certainly got a roster that would suggest so. I mean, number one, I don't think that anyone can underestimate the value of a quarterback like Justin Herbert. I mean, building around a guy with that skill set makes everything else significantly easier. The O-line this year was a problem, and this is a good draft class for O-lines. Even though we thought that they were going to, ahead of the season, I thought this would be a great O-line, and I was wrong. And you look at the opportunity to get some guys in the draft class that could bring this team and put them over at the top. Absolutely. I think it will really depend on, look, you need to address the secondary corner position, obviously, is one of need. And can you rally guys like Derwin James, who are emotional leaders of the team? Can you rally them around a new coach who's going to inspire them to be able to play focused football for 18 weeks or, 17 weeks plus a bye week? So, it's a great job. And it's the Chargers is a nice fresh start. They are just a few. They're not just the head coach. There are a few other key players, like secondary players, probably away from it. But there is so much of a great foundation here. This is the most attractive job, and it's not even close.
Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network. Again, catch her NFL Network's NFL Game Day morning this Sunday, starting at 6 a.m. It is Week 18. Cynthia, we always appreciate your time in San Diego. Enjoy the final week of the regular season.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm always happy to be on.
All right, great stuff. Thank you again. Cynthia Freeland, again, catch her this weekend.
She's great.
She's great. She's terrific. Hopefully we'll have her in the postseason as well. All right, you need to call right now if you want a chance to win a pair of tickets to see Chicago and Earth, Wind, and Fire at the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater August 31st. Tickets and info at livenation.com. Let's play some trivia. First two callers will be our contestants. A great prize, a great concert this summer. Here's the number to call right now. Pick up your phone and dial 877-767-4760. That's 877-767-4760. If you want 2 free tickets to see Chicago and Earth, Wind, and Fire at the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater August 31st, tickets and info at livenation.com. Again, the number to call right now, 877-767-4760. Trainwreck Radio next. All right, hey guys, it's Schaefer, and Novo Brazil Brewing is just days away from opening its brand new fresh spot in Mission Valley. It is coming up in just a matter of days. Novo Brazil Brewing is a proud supporter of the Mesa Foundation Collective, which benefits San Diego State men's and women's basketball. They've got a brand new kombucha flavor coming out, the Aztecs flavor, but instead of a C, it's a K for kombucha. And this was taste tested by Aztec current basketball players, guys like Lamont Butler and Jaden Ledee and Micah Parrish and Cade Alger and others. It's a co-branded product. It's coming out this month, so be on the lookout for that. They've got 5 fantastic locations when you include this brand new spot in Mission Valley that's about to open, including one at Otay Ranch. I was there in December. It's a spectacular spot to watch games, eat food, drink beer. The spot that's about to open up in Mission Valley is a 350-seat restaurant. If you follow them on social media, you'll see some of the inner workings. It's going to be spectacular. They've got a full bar menu, 60 taps of Novo Brazil beer, Nova Kombucha, the brand new Aztecs Kombucha. They'll have seltzers. They're going to have great, great food, sandwiches, tacos, burgers, empanadas, appetizers, Brazilian-inspired entrees, and much, much more. So head over there when it opens. They're just days away from that brand new Mission Valley location, 4 other locations in San Diego. So for more information, visit novobrew.com. That's Novo brew.com. All right. By the way, off the text line, 619 texted and says, you have an expert on regarding key NFL games, and you don't bring up the win and in game for Green Bay against their arch rivals in the best rivalry week. Work on your breadth of coverage.
Oh my gosh, I can't.
And it says Jim.
It doesn't. I am
Jim.
so sorry.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, guys.
I am so sorry.
It's hard. There's 32 teams. None of them play in San Diego. Okay, it's a big game for the Packers, and it's also a big game for the Bills. It's also a big game for the Colts and the Texans. It's also a big game for the Rams from a seeding perspective. It's also a big offseason for the Chargers. Like, you can't hit it on it all. I mean, right? Again, if we were in Green Bay, I think we'd probably get to it. If we were in Chicago, I feel as if we would have gotten to it. I think it came up in conversation, something about Packers Bears.
I mentioned it.
We mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
We mentioned it earlier too. Like the game that is going to be played in San Diego is Packers Bears, not Chargers Chiefs.
Right. We spent 10 minutes on that.
And I don't know if I call it the best rivalry. We're the longest rivalry, even not the best lately. We're like 2-20 against them.
If you expect us to dive deep into the weeds on like Packers Bears, probably not the show for you.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's funny. What I've learned in doing this for as long as that we've either done this show or just previous iterations of Sports Talk Radio is that you don't please all people. You do the best you possibly can with your audience. I think the point here, by and large, we've said this over and over and over again since starting this show, is to serve San Diegans. And we try to do it with like 99% regularity. We talk as much Padres as you can possibly talk. We talk as much Aztecs as you can talk. We talk local sports. Of course, we work on NFL, NBA, etc., as there's reasons to discuss those things. But again, you can't please all people all the time.
No,
it's impossible.
No, it's sometimes a hard thing to learn. But yeah, you're right. You can't please everybody. Sorry I didn't get to a question about the Packers and the Bears, but at the same time, it probably the wrong show to tune in if you're looking for Packers Bears coverage, unfortunately.
Yes. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, Jim, this isn't the right job for you. And that's just in general. It has nothing to do with the Packers Bears conversation we're having right now. Kyle Glazer is going to join us in 10 minutes right now. Let's get to this.
Hold on. The text line says, man, Green Bay fans are so soft. Sit down and eat more cheese curds.
What happened here?
Did you just unplug the station? What happened?
I don't know what this is.
What would you just do?
It's a plug.
Anyway,
let's get to it.
Oh, great. We're going to go off the air now.
Hold on.
What is happening? You're going underneath the table.
And you work on that. 3 questions, 2 contestants, 1 lifeline. Today's 2 contestants, we have William and Frank. William, you called in first. So you have your choice of Jon or Jim. Which one of the occupied ones would you like to play with today?
I'll take Jim.
Who is this?
William.
William is with Jim. That means, Frank, you are with Jon. Are you cool with that?
Sure.
Okay. Brent, what's the question?
All right. Today's question. The Dolphins face the Bills on Sunday with the AFC title on the line. Today's question. Can you name the top 10 passers in Dolphins history in career yardage? So we're looking for the top 10 passers in Dolphins history in terms of yardage.
So William has me and Frank has Jon.
Yes.
Okay.
That means Frank's up first.
That's
Frank,
exactly
what is your first guess?
I remember my first trainer at radio.
You do have, there's a lot happening here. Frank, you have your first guess. What do you got?
I'm not a huge. I can't get. I know Coryell. I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that. I can't tell you.
Do you want a lifeline? You're looking. Wait, a top 10 passer in Dolphins history.
Yeah,
you can't think of it. One Dolphins
use
quarterback.
a lifeline, Frank.
The quarterback. Then we're saying, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I just got to say, I can't remember the quarterback. Greasy.
Bob Greasy.
Yes.
There we go.
There's a couple of Greasies out there, though.
Yeah.
No, he got that.
I know.
That counts.
Okay, name the other one.
Brian Greasy, but I don't think he played for the Dolphins.
No, he didn't.
No, Bob's son.
Yeah. William, you're up next. What is your first guess? There's a layup for you on the board. What are you going to take, or are you going to use your lifeline?
Yeah, this should be easy. I'm going to take Dan Marino.
Dan Marino.
Is he on the list? He is.
Dan Marino. All right, tied up at 1. Frank,
number 1 by a mile, by the way.
Yeah.
Frank,
Okay.
Like a literal mile.
You're lucky because you still have your lifeline. What is your second guess, or do you want to use your lifeline?
I'm going to have to use my lifeline.
All right. What do you got, John?
Ryan Tannehill.
Ryan Tannehill. Do you want to take that, Frank?
Yes.
Boom.
On
Is
the
he
list.
second?
No, he's
Oh.
third.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
William, you're up next. What's your second guess? You do have your lifeline if you want to use it.
Let's go with how do you pronounce his name? Tua Tego. I don't know how to.
Tua's
pronounce
enough.
his
That's
Tua
good.
Tagovailoa. There you go.
Yeah.
On the list.
If there was multiple Tuas in the league, I'd be like, okay.
yeah, there's
we know
only,
who you're
there's only one Tagovailoa. Frank, final guess. This is all up to you. You do not have your lifeline. What do you got?
Oh, God. Larry Zonka.
Larry Zonka.
Larry Zonka. Any passes? No. Okay.
All right, William, you could win it right here with the correct answer. You do have a lifeline if you want to use it. What do you got?
Yeah, I use my lifeline.
Okay. Oh.
Come on, Jam.
Dolphins. I'm gonna go with. Oh boy, all I'm thinking of right now is Chad Pennington. That's all I'm thinking of. I don't know why, but I'm thinking of Chad Pennington. You can use that, or you can do something else.
Check.
I was thinking Jay Fiedler.
Jay Feeler or,
Jay Feeler?
or Feel?
Fiedler.
Is Jay Feeler on the list? He is.
Jay
Jay
Feeler.
Feeler's on the list, Brent?
Jay Fiedler.
Fiedler.
Oh, Jay Fiedler.
Jay Fiedler.
For the win.
For the win.
That's a win,
Boom!
right?
Yeah, it's a win.
Wow.
That's a
What's
win.
Chad Pennington on the
Was
list?
Chad Pennington on the list?
He's 11th.
Oh!
Wow. Drama.
Vinny Testaverde never played for the Dolphins, right?
He played for everyone, though. So
I know.
maybe.
No, he played for the Miami Hurricanes, Jim.
Oh, good point.
Oh, that's
yeah,
right.
it's really good. Okay, who's on this list? 'Cause we got
close.
Kyle Glazer on the other
Same
side.
area.
All right, Dan Marino by a mile, then Bob Greasy, then Tannehill, then Tua, then Jay Fiedler, then Chad Henne.
Oh,
David-
yes, that's the name.
Mhm.
David Woodley. Fitzmagic was number 8.
Yeah.
Don Strock, and number 10 was Matt Moore.
All right,
Don Strock.
congratulations. Because who won, by the way? William.
William.
You have won a pair of tickets to see Chicago and Earth, Wind, and Fire, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater, August 31st. Tickets and info at livenation.com. Kyle Glazer, where would he put the Padres to begin the year 2024 in the NL West? 3rd? 4th? In the division or not? Kyle Glazer, Baseball America on the Padres offseason next.
All right, this update is brought to you by DraftKings. Baseball news of the day. The Giants, they traded Mitch Haniger and Anthony DeSclafani to the Mariners for former Cy Young pitcher Robbie Ray. Aztecs take on UNLV tomorrow at Viejas Arena, 1 p.m. at tip time. Our pregame coverage starts at noon right here on San Diego Sports 760. If you had tickets to go to the Goals game this weekend, well, sorry, those tickets not going to be able to be used because there's a water pipe bursted at Pechanga Arena. All events there have been postponed, and this update's been brought to you by DraftKings.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is the final hour of Jon and Jim for the week. Of course, we do have Aztec basketball tomorrow at 1. Aztecs Rebels from Viejas pregame coverage will begin at noon. We've spent a lot of today's show talking about the state of the Padres as the offseason at least is nearing a conclusion. Spring training about 5 or 6 weeks away. It is always great to catch up with Kyle Glazer from Baseball America. Super knowledgeable on all things baseball, but really good resource for Padres fans as well. And he's back with us right now on Jon and Jim. So, I mean, Kyle, the way we've looked at the offseason is, at best, not really ideal. It seems like if you compare them in 2024, heading into 2024, compared to where they were a year ago, it's hard to say on paper the Padres are anywhere near where they were a year ago on paper. So how do you summarize the Padres offseason to this point?
Well, look, there's been no secret they needed to cut payroll, get under $200 million, and they had to trade Juan Soto in order to do that. There's still a lot of holes on this team and not a ton of financial flexibility remaining, but there's still a little bit. So, look, this is just kind of where they are. This is never going to be an off season where they're going to be able to keep adding and adding and adding. They certainly have had to reshuffle some things to hit their payroll goals. But the offseason isn't over. We've got, almost 3 months till opening day still. Well, I guess with the series in Korea now, I guess it's more like 2.5 months. But there's no question that you look at this team that was an 82-win team a year ago, and you look at the roster today, and it's worse when you lose a Blake Snell, you lose a Josh Hader, you lose a Michael Walker and a Seth Lugo, and of course you lose a Juan Soto. There's certainly been more subtractions than additions thus far.
And there's a lot of holes still remaining on this roster. Where would you start as far as the area that they need the most help in? Like, is it the outfield when they have no outfielders? Is it pitching depth? Like, what area of need do they need to address before the start of the season the most?
It's the outfield. Right now, they have 2 spots that are not currently filled by guys who you want starting in the major leagues. And you could argue you probably don't want on a 26-man roster. The starting pitching, they at least have the bodies. It's a lot of young, unproven guys after Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove, and you certainly don't feel great about it. There's certainly going to be some drop-off, but you at least have the bodies. And the bullpen, again, you would like to see some more pitchers with some end-of-game experience in the major leagues, and especially potentially an established closer. But again, you have the bodies. They don't have the bodies in the outfield. They really, really, really need to go get 2 more starting outfielders. They also need to fill their DH spots. So really their remaining financial resources should be aimed at rounding out this lineup.
Kyle Glazer, Baseball America, with us right now on Jon and Jim. What did you think of the signings of both Matsui and Go from overseas?
Yeah, I mean, these are 2 pitchers who were among the best closers in their respective leagues, Matsui and NPB in Japan and Go and the KBO in Korea. And these are 2 guys who certainly should help the Padres bullpen in some form or fashion. Neither project to be closers in MLB like they were in their home countries. But look, Matsui is a lefty with a low 90s fastball that plays well, good splitter, good slider, can get guys out. They're both right-handed and left-handed at the plate. So, that's valuable. You look at, Go has a good fastball, 93, 95, up to 98. That plays, has flashed a good breaking ball, needs to work on its consistency. But, both these guys have pitches that should help in the Major League Baseball. There's some control issues. Again, they don't project to be closers, but a lot of games are lost in the 6th or 7th inning. And if those guys can fill out those innings and do a good job there, that'll be helpful.
Of these names, Kyle, Jackson Merrill, Robbie Snelling, Dylan Lesko, Jacob Marcy, Graham Pauley, and even Ethan Salas. Are any of them ready for the big leagues? And should any of them be up at the big league level at any time this season?
None of them will be ready by opening day if they're on an opening day roster. It won't be a good thing. I think there's a chance, we could see one or two of them potentially ready after the All-Star break, sort of a call up around the trade deadline, depending on some roster needs there, what moves are made. Again, a lot of these guys got partial AA time, and Salas is kind of an odd exception there because he shouldn't have been there. But if all these guys open back up at AA and do well, move up to AAA and do well, I think it's reasonable that if they make the necessary strides in their development, we could see at least some of them later this season. But if any of these guys are up in April or May, that's not a good thing.
And why I asked that is because, I'm kind of wondering to myself, with all the needs they have and the amount of resources they have left to spend, which is not a lot, maybe they view their internal guys as filling those holes. And that's a pretty dangerous thing with an AJ Preller run organization. Because, let's face it, he hasn't developed really anybody through his system at all over the course of his tenure as the Padres GM.
I wouldn't quite say that. The Padres actually have a lot of guys they've drafted and developed well. They've just been traded for established big.
That's what I meant. Stayed with the club is what I mean.
Very few have reached their peaks wearing a Padres uniform. That's correct. And some of that is they were just traded before they had a chance to kind of hit their primes. But look, this is an organization that has a track record of rushing guys to their detriment. Doesn't help the player, doesn't help the team. So I think the best thing is to let these guys develop on their own timelines, bring them up when they're ready, and not try to force them into a major league role before they're ready. Again, that's not going to benefit the player. That's not going to benefit the team.
Kyle Glazer, Baseball America, with us on Jon and Jim. We kind of started the show by saying we talked about this Robbie Ray move, and I get it. Maybe it's not overly significant for 2024 because of Tommy John, but I do think he could play a role in the second half, and he could certainly play a role in 2025 and beyond with the Giants. But this idea of, are the Padres better than the Giants? Are they worse than the Giants? It's hard to say they're better than the Dodgers or the Diamondbacks based on the state of those organizations. So how do you stack up the Padres right now? Again, we know it's not a finished roster. Same thing with the Giants. How do you stack up those two teams?
Yeah, so again, before I start, I would caution to say these rosters could look very different on opening day. So this assessment could change a lot by opening day. But if you just look at it right now, again, the Padres are an 82-win team that has gotten worse and lost a lot of talent, a lot of the players I talked about earlier. The Giants were a 79-win team that has gotten better. They've added a Robbie Ray. They've added a Jon Jim. They've gotten better. So I think when you look at the Padres, they certainly have more top-end talent than the Giants. But, as we've talked about and as we've seen over and over and over again, it's not just about top-end talent. You have to be good 1 through 9 in the lineup, 1 through 5 in the rotation. The Giants are a more well-balanced team. Their 6 through 9 hitters are better than the Padres 6 through 9 hitters right now. Their 3 through 5 starters are better than the Padres 3 through 5 starters right now. So, top-end talent versus more balanced, I think I would lean toward balance. And then you look at these teams, despite their big names and their payrolls and their narratives, they're only 3 wins apart last year. And it was a close call. The Giants have gotten better. The Padres have gotten worse.
How would you describe what the 2024 season, like the motivation or the goals or expectations for the 2024 team should be or will be?
Yeah, so again, some of this is going to depend on what moves this front office can make, how creative they can get in trades, and seeing what this roster looks like on opening day. But again, when you look at it right now, given the number of holes they have to fill, given the lack of payroll room to do so, and given where a lot of their best prospects are in their development, I do kind of see 2024 as a transition year where, you let these guys develop at their own pace in the minor leagues. You let the veterans do their thing in the majors. And then in 2025, when these prospects have gotten more playing time, gotten more experience, maybe gotten their first taste in the majors, and they're ready to be established in 2025, you combine that with this great core of Tatis and Machado and Bogarts and Musgrove and Darvish, then you might have a complete team capable of competing. But I do think 2024, as the roster stands right now, would be more of a transition year.
It's interesting. That's the way we've felt about it. We've spent so much time talking about it. But again, they drew $3.2 million and they spent all this money this past year. I guess my question is this: does AJ Preller, quote unquote, survive a transition year that would be out of the postseason in 3 of 4 years? Like, is he going to get 2025 even with upside in 2025 if he doesn't make the postseason in 2024?
And that's a question only Padres ownership can
Yeah.
answer. I think some of that's going to come down to setting expectations with ownership and the fan base. I think that, look, you do have to look at the track record. AJ Preller has had 9 full seasons as a GM, and they have not had a 90-win season. They're now going to be on their 6th full-time managerial hire under AJ Preller in 10 seasons, which, again, is certainly more than a lot of teams or general managers get. Look, you're going to have to assess it. Again, a lot's going to come down to what they do here in these next few months before opening day and the expectations that the front office sets to the fan base and ownership.
And before we let you go here, Kyle, I just want to dive deeper into one player that I mentioned earlier, and that's Jackson Merrill, because I feel like he's the one name that Padres fans talk about the most, and probably potential of him being at the big league level first over all of those guys. But when you look at a guy like Jackson Merrill, how would you, where would you say that his best fit is on the field, and what type of hitter could he project to be?
Yeah, so he's a very, very mature player for his age. He has really good at bats, hangs it well against lefties. It's more contact over power, but it's hard contact. You have to remember he's 20 years old. He comes from a cold weather state in Maryland. This is not a finished product by any means. He's continuing to develop physically. He won't turn 21 until April of next year. So I think right now it's more contact over power, but he should grow into power as he matures. Defensively, it's more polish over, super twitchiness. I think he can play a solid shortstop. Depending who you talk to, others think he might end up better as a third baseman, just with, not having the most electric range in the world. And if he gets bigger and slows down a tick, but he should stay on the left side of the infield and be an impact hitter. The issue, of course, is you have Xander Bogaerts and Manny Machado locked in there. So finding position on the field for him is something that's on the to-do list. But right now, the main focus is just be letting him get at bats in AA and AAA. Again, he's had less than 50 games above the Class A levels. He needs more development time, and also some of it's just age and physical development. Again, he's 20 years old. He's not a finished product.
So if he were to play the outfield this year for the Padres, that'd be a bad idea?
If the Padres move him to the outfield, he needs to spend a full season in the minor leagues learning to play it. Again, a new position on top of trying to adjust and adapt to hitting major league pitching. You're just making it a more difficult transition. Learning to play any position at a major league caliber level takes thousands of reps, and he would need a full season in the minor leagues if they want to do that.
Kyle, one more before you go. Would you expect, and we don't know the full status, I guess, of Manny Machado coming off injury, but would your expectation be Machado would start the year at DH and Ha-Seong Kim, assuming they hold on to him, would start the year at third base?
Some of that's just going to depend on Machado's timeline and how well he healed. I hate to speculate on injury timelines because every player healed differently.
Sure.
So I'm going to hold off on making any declarative statements there until we know a little more about where he is in the rehab process.
Kyle, always appreciate it. Great insight. Spring training is coming next month. The Padres, like you said, will be in action March 20th at 3 a.m. in Korea against the Dodgers. The season will be here before we know it. And Kyle, we always appreciate your time. Thanks for doing it today.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anytime, guys.
All right. Kyle Glazer from Baseball America. His words, transition year.
Transition year.
Which, again, have been, I get pushback. And when I'm like, I look at the moves and the actions and they're rebuilding. And we're like, no, they're not rebuilding. And I don't think they're rebuilding, but I don't know what word I would use. Maybe he used the right word, transition.
Yeah. I feel like the last couple of days we've been trying to figure out a word to use. I used developmental.
Right.
And
I think
then
you said that he used that with Jeff Sanders.
Yeah. I listened to a podcast and they mentioned developmental year. But transition year as well.
So what are we saying though? I mean, what is that all? We're beating around the bush.
It's words that you don't want to hear.
Right.
You don't want to hear developmental year, transition year. They'll get him in 2025. Like, no, you don't want to hear that. You can't miss the postseason 3 to the last 4 years.
That's what I'm saying.
With the money that's been spent.
But he made a good point. He's like, that's where ownership needs to set directives and narratives for the fan base. That, like, if someone comes out, and I don't think this will be seen overly well, but if someone comes out and says, hey, listen, we love our system, we love our core, we're merging the two together, and watch out as this plays out over the next 2 years.
I want to see some guys, develop. We want to see what the young guys can do.
If they say that, they're setting the track to give Preller a second year here into 2025. But if they say, hey, we're spending $200 million, We were really disappointed last year. We think we're going to contend for the division, kind of like what Mike Schultz said when he was introduced. Hey, we need to win the division first. Like, if they're continuing down that path, we need to get in, we need to win divisions, and then they miss out on the postseason. How could you retain AJ Preller for 2025?
I know that you've been the one of like, hey, we need to hear from the organization.
I need to hear from them.
And I'm been like, yeah, what are they going to say? I think I'm kind of leaning towards you now as far as
it's been so much time.
I need to know. I don't need to know how much money you're going to spend because they're never going to tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're never going to get an answer. But you're right. I do want to hear what's your expectations for this season.
Right. Yeah.
Do you? And that will tell you all. That will tell us all we need to know.
We think. Remember what we've heard from AJ. We think we can sustainably compete. Like he's using sustainability as a word.
Well,
he's talking about expectations are to be in postseason conversations each and every year. I'm paraphrasing, but this is what he said. This offseason, we can be sustainable, we can be successful, we can vie for postseasons. Can you do it in 2024 with the moves you're making, though? Like, are these moves to benefit a winning team? Or are these moves as stopgaps? Right? That's my is Go going to be a winning piece, a high leverage piece in a good bullpen? Or is he a 1 or 2 year stopgap because you don't have money? Are you trying to, wait off 2024 to develop players to then potentially win in 2025? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered that they don't even have the answer to because they haven't nearly completed this roster right now.
And then you get to the Jackson Merrill situation.
Well, you're saying that, hey, they got long-term guys locked up and he's got to play at some point because he's one of your top prospects. So where are you going to play him?
Dennis Lin had him as their outfielder for the 2024 season.
To start?
On Monday when he released an article like talking about the
I saw that
Padres
with
roster.
But that was to start the year?
To start the year.
I mean, Tatis did it as a big leaguer. I know. I don't think I'm with Kyle. I say develop the player. I don't like developing players in the big leagues.
Well, Tatis also started at his natural position, which was shortstop.
True. He made the switch, though, like without any seasoning.
But he was also at the big league level, and he didn't have to worry about acclimating at the plate.
True.
And a new position at the same time.
I don't like developing players in the big leagues. You develop players in the minor leagues to then win in the big leagues.
That is the one thing that I am really worried about. Do I want to see these players? Yeah, I do. A lot of fans want to see these guys too. I see it a lot. I see that there's a lot of intrigue and interest in if this farm system can actually be the farm system that's going to live up to some of the hype.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be great if 3 or 4 of these players are regulars or beyond that, contributors.
But to just bring them up because you got to fill a spot instead of bringing them up because they're ready.
No, that's a bad way to do it.
Very bad way to do it.
And honestly, I don't think it serves anyone. If you bring a player up just because you're filling a hole, I don't think it's a win for AJ Preller. He knows that's not going to work. You might, there's a lightning in a bottle element. Maybe for one player, it works out swimmingly. For another player, you set them back.
Mm-hmm. If the opening day roster consists of a Jackson Merrill, and a couple like Jacob Marcy, and
well, you know me, I'm saying it's going to
another
happen.
player.
I think there's going to be 3 or 4 rookies on the opening day roster.
I do too. I will definitely push back against that and say it's a bad idea.
It is a bad idea, but it's like rock hard place stuff. We have no money. How do we get left fielders and center fielders and starting pitchers?
Well, we have it in our system.
Right. So like what's a worse idea? Spending money you don't have or promoting players that aren't yet ready? Both aren't good.
Man, that's such a great question.
Like what would you prefer they do? Go above their means, which clearly didn't work last year because they're now subtracting $50+ million, or go with guys, starting clocks early of guys in the minors typically isn't a good idea, and then potentially setting them back because you're asking a lot of guys that aren't fully baked. Well, Kyle Glazer.
This is something that this organization will absolutely do. They put up Ethan Salas, who was like 10 years old, in Double-A last year.
Right.
I remember the pushback that you had.
Oh
you were
dumb.
hot.
I still am. I remember his numbers in Double-A did nothing. The guy has caught so few games. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Well, he's played a bit because he's DH'd and he's had a level of success at the plate as a young player. He really has. But what's the rush?
Dude. I don't want to see Ethan Salas.
It has
for
to be 2025 at
the next
earliest.
2 years the least for me.
Yeah.
Because
it just doesn't make any sense.
doesn't make any sense. Jackson Merrill, if you are contemplating and putting him in the outfield, like Kyle said there, and I'm sure a lot of other scouts from other organizations and a lot of people in baseball that do this for a living would say, what the hell are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't be the first time that people would say that about AJ Preller when it comes to prospects. And that's a scary thing.
Listen, if you take one shot on one player, it's much more understandable. As in, if I look at this roster and they finish it off with veteran major league free agent signings, maybe under the radar or off injury type guys, and then there's one rookie on the big league roster, you say, well, I'm a bit surprised that Jacob Marcy made the big league club, or I'm a bit surprised Jackson Merrill made the big league club. But if it's 3 or 4 of those projects to start the year, that to me is a really bad idea. I think I can stomach one of them, and I think that's very sellable. But if it's 3 or 4 and you're facing the Dodgers and you're looking at their roster, it's going to be a tough sell and a tough way to win.
The more that you hear from people like Kyle Glazer and the more you look at it, I know Jackson Merrill is definitely on the front of the minds of a lot of Padres fans out there. Wouldn't it be best to just like let him, so to say, cook down in the minors so you can bring him up and he's ready to go instead of just putting him up here right away just to see him because they need to fill a hole?
46 games in AA in his career.
Come on, man.
A 782 OPS in AA, a career 802 OPS. He's been a fine offensive player. He's very young.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, this idea that he's ready off 46 AA games and to switch positions to be an impact piece.
And anybody out there that might bring up, well, look at Fernando Tatis Jr. I want you to go to his baseball reference page and see how many games he played in the minors before he debuted.
Oh, I don't know. That's a really interesting conversation. He didn't play a lot.
He had at one point, John, more at bats in the minors than he did the big league.
I remember. I used to say it, but he didn't have a lot of minor league at bats. He was up at 19, right? He had, okay, let's do it. The comp 288 minor league games. And that includes some time, I don't know, rehabbing throughout his career too. But let's just say 280 before he came up. To your point, Merrill's got 200. So Merrill hasn't yet equaled Tatis's path to the big leagues through the minors.
And guess what? If you 80 games, that's
it's half season.
About a half a season. And maybe if you decide to switch him, that's one more season.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Jackson Merrill should be down in the minors for like 3 more years. I just think that this year, if you put him up there right away
to start,
like if you brought him up, if he played half a season in the minors, and you brought him up around middle of July, end of July,
probably a better idea.
Probably a smarter idea, but I don't know if they're going to do that because we know Preller has zero patience when it comes to prospects.
Yeah, I mean, he's never played more than 114 games in a year. It's a long year, folks. 162. He's never played more than 114. He's 20. He'll start the regular season, as Kyle just told us, as a 20-year-old. Doesn't turn 21 until April 19th.
That's why it's so vital for them to find a major league ready outfielder. Oh, by the way, not just one, but 2.
Yeah, for
pennies on the dollar.
For pennies on the dollar. On the other side, big recruiting weekend for San Diego State. Sean Lewis kicking it off with a win. We'll tell you what that win is. On the other side for San Diego State's football program, plus Jim's back page is still ahead. Stay with us here on Jon and Jim. All right. Hey, guys, it is Schaefer. I've been telling you about Novo Brazil Brewing and their support of the Mesa Foundation Collective and San Diego State Aztecs men's basketball. It is now official. They've officially released the Aztecs Raspberry Kombucha in support of San Diego State student athletes. So that now is available. 5% of all sales per release donated to the Mesa Foundation. How cool is that? So 5% of all sales donated directly to this collective. Aztecs Raspberry available on draft and in 4 packs of 16-ounce cans at all Novo and Nova Brazil locations, Ocean Beach, the headquarters tap room in Chula Vista, Novo Otay Ranch Town Center in IB, and the soon-to-be open Novo Mission Valley Mall that's coming out, or that's opening up in just a few days. Later in January, by the way, 4-packs will be available in retail outlets throughout San Diego County. Again, they're opening this fresh new spot in Mission Valley in just days. It's a 350-seat restaurant with a full bar menu, 60 taps of Novo Brazil beer and kombucha, and they've got seltzers. They've got great food at all their locations, sandwiches and tacos and burgers and empanadas and appetizers and Brazilian-inspired food as well. So swing by as early as this weekend. Any of the area locations, check out that brand new Aztecs Raspberry Kombucha, support San Diego State student athletes. And for more information, visit novobrew.com. That's Novo brew.com.
This update is brought to you by Staples Stores. We'll start with baseball news today. There was a trade between the Giants and the Mariners. The Giants traded Mitch Haniger and Anthony DeSclafani to the Mariners for former Cy Young Award pitcher Robbie Ray. Of course, Robbie Ray is out for most of the season, recovering from Tommy John surgery. Aztecs take on UNLV tomorrow at Viejas Arena, 1 p.m. tip-off. Pregame right here on San Diego Sports 760 starts at noon. And because of a water pipe bursting at Pechanga Arena, all events, including the Gulls game this weekend, has been postponed. And this update's been brought to you by Staples.
All right, Jim's back page coming up in about 15 minutes. Aztecs basketball tomorrow, a big one at Viejas. San Diego State, UNLV. We're doing a long-time series tomorrow at 1. Our pregame coverage will begin at noon. So it's a big recruiting weekend. They all are. We know about the portal. We know about NIL.
Every day is a big recruiting
It is.
day,
we know about roster churn, right? I mean, there's going to be a lot of changes.
Churn it, baby.
There's going to be a lot of changes on San Diego State's roster. But by the way, there's going to be a lot of changes on Georgia's roster. I've been watching. And Alabama's. They had 9 players enter the portal yesterday in Alabama.
No roster in college football now is the same every year, except if you're like, I mean, Michigan's pretty much the same from last year with some additions for sure.
True. That's fair. But by and large, there's been a lot
99%.
of change. And when you have a coaching change, of course, there's going to be change. So the Aztecs today picked up a big recruiting win just by recruiting one of their own.
Retaining.
Yeah, retaining. Now, Keenan Kristen started his career at SC, has spent the last 2 years as a tailback at San Diego State. He announced on Instagram earlier today he will be back. And the reason it's really exciting and intriguing from my perspective is this. He's a speedster with experience in this high-octane offense. So we already saw him a year ago, 4 yards per carry, about 400 yards on the ground. He had 29 catches last year as a tailback for Brady Hoke in the Aztecs in 2023. But again, Kristen, the veteran with speed in a high-powered, quickened offense, to me is intriguing.
Yeah, you need weapons in this offense. I don't know how the wide receivers are going to shape out. I know they got a couple big-time recruits and maybe have some things working as well, but skill guys in this offense are everything. And, of course, the quarterback's the number one thing. It's going to be fascinating to see how the quarterback competition plays out. If it's truly going to be A.J. Duffy, who's a transfer from Florida State. Not many reps in college games, but at least he has some experience and obviously going through practices in the everyday life of a college, athlete, or guy that they brought in, highly rated quarterback, Danny O'Neal, true freshman. Like, are they going to truly go that route? I don't know, but you need to give these guys weapons, whoever's the quarterback. And Keenan Christian is a guy that showed flashes last year where you're like, man, put him in a fast-paced, high-powered offense. Like, you could do some damage. And like you said, 20-plus catches, 29?
Yeah, 29 is a big number.
Could you see that being around 45 next year?
Seriously, you do wonder. I mean, whether it's as a pass-catching tailback or just the way they implement him as a tailback to give more opportunities in space, you always saw flashes. Like, I've seen big moments from Keenan Kristen. I wonder if we get them with more regularity again next year. Now, again, we talk about the Padres not being a finished roster. Same thing with the Aztecs. I mean, we don't know about offensive line. They're replacing a lot of parts. Defensive line. I mean, there's going to be change, and there's still a lot to be determined from now until their opener at the end of August. But how can you not like what Sean Lewis has accomplished to this point? I know J.D. Wicker was with Darren Smith earlier today. If nothing else, he's brought a level of excitement to the program in an offseason that we haven't typically seen, and that's playing out right now.
Oh, absolutely. Spring game has definitely gone up in my books as far as, like, if you're an Aztecs fan,
right,
you're going to want to get to the spring game. If you're intrigued by the Aztecs, you want to get to the spring game. And being there to start the next season at Snapdragon Stadium is going to be one of the biggest intrigues, I think, all of next season. Like, seeing how this offense plays out, seeing how this offense looks, how this team looks, how Sean Lewis runs game days. Like, it's all new. And what do we know about new? New's always exciting. And so first impressions are going to be big. And You just hope that whatever quarterback they decide on to start, when they finalize this roster heading into next season, you just hope that they start off on a good foot, because first impressions are going to be a lot.
And I also hope, to that point, I hope that they're able to continue to build off what has been a good culture. We always talk about the men's basketball culture. I think the football culture has really been there. When you think about Hoke to Long to Hoke,
The identity, yeah.
I think the identity has been really strong. I really do. If they continue to build off that, because we talk about this, we're going to talk about it tomorrow. UNLV is uber talented, but they've changed over coaches a lot. They've changed over their roster a lot, basketball-wise. It's about, can you build a culture that sometimes can outclass even teams with more talent? And that's not just in basketball. That's in football too. I mean, San Diego State is not always going to be the most talented team, whether it's on the floor in basketball or on the field in football in 2024. But can they continue to build on that culture and put themselves in a position where they can build some momentum? Again, last year they went 4-8. I don't know what the expectations are going to be. I think we asked JD, and he said the expectation is to get to a bowl game and then vie for Mountain West Conference championship. So they're not hoping to go from 4-8 to 5-7. I think they want to see a level of improvement. It'll be easier said than done with the schedule, but it is exciting. I'm intrigued by it. There's still a lot of time between now and August, but I think it is exciting.
One thing that you can just tell right away when talking to Sean Lewis, he's not going to be satisfied with just improving on the win total by 1 or 2 games.
Right. That's true.
Like he's not going to say, oh, if they go 6-6, you know what? Good season.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not going to be a good season in his mind. And you like that because he's trying to raise everybody's expectations. He's trying to make it so this team is back at the top of the Mountain West Conference, vying for a Mountain West Conference title, which they haven't won since 2000 and when, John?
Well, it would have been, it's either 15 or 16.
I think it was
they won back to back.
Okay. My point being, it's been a while. And the last time they made the Mountain West Conference championship game, we all know what happened there.
Ago.
We all know what happened there with the COVID and everything.
20 players out, scholarship players.
Right. But the expectation from day one, he even said it, and I love it. Mountain West Conference titles, college, playing in contention for the college football playoff, being that Power Five or that Group of 5 school that gets that bid into the college football playoff, because it's possible now and it's attainable. It's not some pipe dream that it was for the last forever.
15 and 16, by the way. They won the Mountain West 2015, 2016, co-champions in 2012 under Rocky Long. So it's 2016. It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
And now they've had some good teams since 2016, but not a conference championship.
That to me is forever ago. Like 2016, that's forever ago.
I mean, yes and no, because since 2016, you've had Rashad Penny. So you've had great teams since 2016. Now you didn't win the league.
But I just mean from a standpoint of winning the league. That's it. Not players wise or good teams at all, because they've had good teams and great players come through here since then. I just mean winning a conference championship.
Yeah, it's been a while. No, it has. I mean, and the truth is, you'd have to go back. I mean, before the Brady Rocky era, you're going back 30 years. So yeah, it's been 6 or 7 years. But before Brady and Rocky, you're going back 30 plus years when it comes to winning at a conference championship level. All right, on the other side, we're going to get to Jim's back page again. We do have Aztecs Hoops tomorrow. Join us outside Viejas Arena. We'll be on the air at noon with our pregame coverage, the Aztecs countdown to tip-off. Tip-off with Ted Leitner on the calls at 1 p.m. This is a huge game in the league. They all are. Aztecs hoping to be as healthy as possible. Reese Waters tweaked an ankle in the last game against Fresno State, hoping that he's available. Miles Bird, turf toe. We'll see if he's available or not. But San Diego State taking on a dangerous UNLV team tomorrow. Join us beginning at noon. On the other side, we'll get to Jim's back page. Stay with us. All right, on the other side, we'll get you ready for San Diego State and UNLV tomorrow, plus Jim's back page next. All right. Again, Aztecs UNLV tomorrow. UNLV coming off a 112-56 win over a school I've never heard of. Bethesda. Where is Bethesda? You know, normally we make fun of Jim. Bethesda?
Huh?
They beat a school. UNLV is coming off a win over a school called Bethesda. Where is that? Oh, Anaheim. Okay, they're in Anaheim. So anyway, that doesn't mean anything. You don't beat Bethesda by 56 and say, uh-oh. But they have beaten Creighton. That does mean something. So I'm not worried about their Bethesda win. I am worried about their win over Creighton. And I am worried, Jim, if you're wondering, about tomorrow. Are you going to be there?
I'm not worried.
Are you going to be there?
Let me answer that for you, John.
No.
No.
What are you doing this weekend?
Probably wedding stuff. Like,
All weekend?
actually, not probably. Legit wedding stuff, yeah.
Such as? Are you getting married?
No, not getting married. We're doing invitations, finishing those. That's just a lot.
Email them.
No, I can't. If I
you
had
know those like cards that open up when you send them to an email address.
If I could, I would, but I can't.
Well, there, I just saved you $1,000. What else can I save you on? Does she need a dress? You can wear jeans. Saved you $1,000.
She already has the dress.
I'm kidding.
A liquor? Can you save us on liquor?
Sure.
How?
I don't steal it.
Okay.
There, saved you $1,000. I mean, I can save you money.
Okay.
I can save you money.
Make your own. Start fermenting alcohol.
Yes, you can make your own.
Oh, that's right.
So your whole weekend you have blacked out wedding. Saturday, wedding.
I'm not
Sunday, Niners.
I'm not blocked it out. Football Sunday. Tomorrow, I don't know what we're doing. Erin's getting off this. She had like a bug, like a virus. Like I think she got food poisoning. So,
what?
Yeah.
From where? Well,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like we're kind of wondering, like, wait a second, where did you get this food poisoning? Because we had like the same food.
Right, and you're fine.
And I'm fine. And she was not fine.
Does Erin get sick more often than, well, you're always sick. Does she get sick a lot?
She doesn't get sick a lot, but no, she doesn't get sick a lot.
What was the butt about?
She just has a lot of work to do with, like, her neck is kind of messed up. And so those are some issues that she's dealing with. Like making sure. I don't even know. Never mind.
All right.
Pause.
Next, whatever we're doing here.
Her neck hurts. Whatever we're doing. John, are you intrigued by the Golden Globes?
Is that for movies or shows?
Both.
Movies and TV shows?
Yeah.
And when is it? Sunday night?
Yeah.
When's the red carpet kickoff?
January 7th, Sunday night. Yeah.
Sunday night. No, I'm not intrigued, but I would throw them on. Sure. Are you intrigued?
It's Oscars are the big one.
Okay.
I think
this is awards season.
It's awards season. Golden Globes to me aren't like crazy big, but if you want a Golden Globe, that's a good thing.
The difference between the Oscars and the Golden Globes, John, is the Golden Globes are done by the foreign press. So it's not like the American, it's the Hollywood foreign press. So
okay.
That's who decides it. So there's usually different winners for the Golden Globes than there is for the Oscars.
Interesting.
So how many movies of these have you seen?
Let me hear them.
All right.
0.
Best motion picture.
No, I haven't seen it.
Barbie.
Saw it.
Oh, okay.
With Kristen. I didn't get it.
Poor Things.
No, never heard of it.
American Fiction.
Never heard of it.
The Holdovers.
No.
May, December.
No.
Air.
I've breathed it. So I've seen one. I've heard of one.
Air is the Michael Jordan movie.
The Air Jordan movie with Ben Affleck. And
did I see? Is it about
Damon.
the Nike?
The Air
shoe,
Jordan.
The Nike Air.
Oh
shoe.
yeah, it was great.
Great movie.
But was that on in theaters or was that straight to like streaming?
It was Prime and theaters for like 2 weeks.
Oh,
It was
I
one
love
of those
that.
deals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So 2.
So you've seen
That's a
2?
lot.
I am
That's huge.
shocked.
Have you seen? I know. I mean,
it's more than I've seen out of that group.
Yeah, Kristen wanted to see Barbie. Is that right? And then the Air thing. Yeah, that was interesting.
So I've seen 2 as well.
2.
I've seen 0 of them.
Okay.
Best motion picture.
I haven't seen it.
Oppenheimer.
Haven't seen it.
Saw it.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Nope.
Nope.
Maestro.
No.
No.
Past Lives.
Nope.
The Zone of Interest.
No.
Mm-mm.
Anatomy of Fall.
Are these even
No.
real movies? You're just saying words.
No, they're
Cat
real.
on a dog.
Yeah. Past Lives.
Sunset.
Society of the Snow.
I've seen none of it.
Anyway, so
what's the point here?
I'm just seeing how many movies you know.
Because it's Golden Globes Sunday night.
Yeah, there's some television, like best performance by a male actor in a television series. Bill Hader for Barry, Steve Martin, Jason Segel,
Steve Martin,
Martin Short.
Yeah, for the Killers in the Building or whatever.
Only Murders in the Building.
Okay.
Yeah, him and Martin Short.
Jason Sudeikis for Ted Lasso. You know that show.
Yeah, but that's
I
not
thought that
new.
show ended.
Yeah, that's
did.
really new.
Jeremy Allen White for The Bear. I haven't watched The Bear, but I heard it's like really good. It's like a cooking show. Like it's a TV show, but it's like cooking. Anyway,
It's over my head.
Sunday, this Sunday, Golden Globes.
You could be watching that over
on
Sunday Night
CBS and
Football?
Paramount Plus.
You're watching that over Bills Dolphins?
Let me answer that quickly for you.
No.
Moving on, John. Snoop Dogg's Dr. Bombay ice cream is now in San Diego grocery stores. Did you even know Snoop Dogg had an ice cream?
I did not.
I knew he had cereal because it's at Walmart now.
What stores?
So Snoop Dogg is making headlines once again this week. Earlier this week, NBC announced the rapper will be reporting for the Summer Olympics in Paris. And now Snoop Dogg announced that he's bringing ice cream collection to a grocery store near you in San Diego. Dropped it at Albertsons grocery stores on Thursday, which was yesterday. You can now grab one of 6 Dr. Bombay ice cream original flavors at 27 Albertsons and Vons throughout San Diego County.
Do you know the flavors?
Yes. Bonus track brownie, iced out orange cream, rolling in the dough, s'more vibes.
I like this.
Syrupy waffle sundaes.
With the Z?
With a Z.
Hell yeah.
And tropical sherbet swizzle.
I would definitely have some tropical sherbet swizzle.
Now, if every pint doesn't cost $4.20, they totally missed out on this.
But
it's probably $8.40.
The problem is
because of inflation.
Inflation. So
yeah, or $4.20, like $420.
I know that's what I was getting at,
yeah.
John.
Yeah, probably.
I thought you meant $4.20.
Yeah. So I don't know the price on those things, but they're in Albertsons right now. And
okay.
So there you go. Taco Bell. Fans can now make 2 of the Taco Bell chain's most popular menu items at home. Do you hear about this, John?
No. What do you mean you can make them at home?
You can make a Taco Bell Crunchwrap Supreme and a Chipotle chicken quesadilla. There's cooking kits now that you can buy in stores.
There's a similar story I saw to that too when you're done.
Taco Bell described the Crunchwrap Supreme as perhaps its most iconic menu item in history. And also the chicken quesadilla was the company's best-selling menu item in 2023.
So let me get this straight. I'm going to go to a supermarket, buy some Taco Bell item, and then go make it at home. That's not happening.
No
So I'm
chance.
saying, like, that's not happening.
The
I'll just go to
package-
Taco Bell.
The packages include specific cooking and assembly instructions to help chefs achieve the best homemade version of
No.
both recipes. I am with you. I'm
Yeah.
just going to Taco
I'm
Bell.
not
Well,
doing
that's just like I saw a story earlier in the week where some dude that used to work at McDonald's like released something about how you can make McDonald's fries at home.
I'm just going
Okay.
to McDonald's.
And he told you about how you go and buy the big bag of great value fries at like Walmart, and then you have to use this certain vegetable oil, and
Just
it has to
buy
be
'em.
heated to a certain degree.
Yeah, no,
and-
that's too
They're
much work.
$1 or $1.50 or $2, whatever it is. I'd rather spend $1.50 than the time and the
I'm
resources.
with you. I'm
Yeah.
just going to my nearest Taco Bell and I'm buying a Crunchwrap.
100%.
Like, I'm not going to spend the time to make it and then it not taste good and then wish I just went to Taco Bell and saved a
Yeah.
bunch of time.
Yeah, like it doesn't. Yeah,
If anything, they should have just been like, okay, we're going to make like Crunchwraps, frozen Crunchwraps, and then you can heat it up at home or something. I don't know.
If
with
anything,
you.
I'm going to do that and make like the crunch wrap from hell. If the normal crunch wrap is like an inch, I'm going to make like
Massive crunch
make like
wrap.
a 5-inch thick crunch wrap, like like Shaggy and Scooby made it.
report back Monday and let us know if you bought the Taco Bell packs and you cooked them all weekend and how it turned out. But it doesn't sound like you're doing it.
I'm
It's wedding stuff.
I'm not. Yeah, it's
Wedding
it's
weekend.
Wedding,
It's
it's
wedding
wedding
weekend.
food.
Wedding
Wedding
food.
weekend.
Wedding
Build your own
food.
chimichanga.
All right, if you missed anything today, sportsst.com, iHeartRadio app, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify. If you're listening to us on podcast, please leave a review. Find us on social media at Jon and Jim. For Brent and Jim, I'm John. We're back tomorrow at noon. Aztec counts out to tip-off. Tip-off at 1 p.m. San Diego State and UNLV. And keep it here to San Diego Sports 760.
Okay.
Have a good weekend. Okay.